introduce. There's always one. I would like to introduce Hugh Edwards. Sorry. So having been thoroughly confused already, Hugh Richards, experienced organic gardener, we have met before, but I suffer from name blindness. Yeah. Best-selling author, presenter, and YouTuber with 17 years of hands-on experience. We answer if you got more than that. And he's going to listen and he's going to entertain, and hopefully we will all learn. Hugh, over to you.
Yeah,
Just so you don't feel as bad, I was on Radio 4 once, and they introduced me as Hugh Edwards. On Radio 4, no. So
Where the name it comes from.
Yes, exactly. I'm just going to wait for the. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Right, can everyone hear me? Excellent. I might have to dive out and help with the technology. Don't worry, I can keep people entertained to begin with. Let's play a game of I Spy. A ukulele. Oh yeah, we're going to start a band.
Yeah, we're starting a band.
We're starting a band. Yeah, you're the backup dancer.
I'm backup.
So I'll
answer. Yeah.
I'll start off with a little introduction and I'll hopefully show you some pretty pictures to have some context. My name is Hugh Richard. I live in Aberystwyth in Mid-West Wales. Everyone's like, we don't sound Welsh. Or we actually siarad Cymraeg yn ffigwr. So if you want me to speak fluently to you about siarad yn byti moron, moron is a Welsh word for carrot. If they don't put you a moron, we're putting you a carrot. So it's not that bad. Fantastic. Thanks, Tony. Technology, even in 2026, always has its way. It's always reminding us that we are inferior to it. So I want to thank Tyler for being so patient on that. It is not fun. It happens to us all. Yes. So today, is it 20 minutes I'm allowed to waffle on for?
Even longer if you like.
Even longer? No, that's dangerous.
Feel free.
I'll set an hour timer. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna, so I can broadly overview. What I want to do today is chat to you a little bit about one of the projects that I did 3 years ago, and also give you a little bit of background into what I do, because I probably bring the average age down in this room by about 2 years, because I'm 27. So it's like, yeah. So you know, when the PR paper headlines come out, National Allotment Society AGM. But what I wanted to do is show you like a fresh perspective on some of the things that I've been doing and share it with you, because I think one of the most important thing, or one of the most powerful things that we all have, whether we have back gardens or allotments, is in a way we have a responsibility. We've got some land and we have a responsibility to look after it. Now, I know it's very easy to get very caught up and look at, oh, what is Joe doing over the other side of the allotment fence, and kind of think, oh no, her aubergine is looking bigger than mine. But I think it's really important to remember why we get started, particularly with a lot of new people wanting to come into allotment growing. And I think a huge part of the reason why is because of rising food costs. So I kind of targeting this talk on the idea of what like maybe modern day Dig for Victory is, and share some of the results I have found of growing on a half-size allotment lot, 125 square meters, to show you just how powerful and how impactful our own gardens and allotments can be. So there's me in my little plot. That is, I'm a permaculturalist as well. So permaculture is just nature-inspired design. It has been hijacked by hippies, but I'm kind of in the very much the rational design side of things, which is looking at patterns in nature and how we can use those patterns to better help us and to create more productive areas. And I'll show you a couple of examples that I've done using that thinking on the subject of compost towards the end. If you don't know who I am basically a YouTuber. So when I was 12, a friend of mine called Ben was making videos on YouTube, gaming videos. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. He got like 100 views. What should I do? I'll do gardening videos. Now, so I've been on YouTube for over half my life, but you can all go back and watch my old videos. I've left them on there for your entertainment. Because if you go back to my original videos, they go like this. Welcome back to the garden. Today I want to show you how to pot on a blackcurrant sapling. So I like making fun of myself. It shows how far I've, I'm getting there. My prefrontal cortex has only just developed. But anyway, I have a YouTube channel, and it's the biggest independent UK gardening channel on YouTube. Got over 100 million views online. What's kind of crazy is also for every one view I get in the UK, I get 2 views from America. So I'm also helping the Americans, and apparently it's a British accent that helps because they're all obsessed with like Great British Bake Off and stuff. But one of the things that has been like truly inspiring is YouTube. It gives you lots of fun statistics, and you'll see that I'm a bit of a statistics guy in this talk with some of the numbers that I've kind of been crunching. But one of the cooler statistics was last year, my YouTube channel passed over 1,000 years of watch time, which is the equivalent of if one person was to sit down and watch all of my videos, they would be sat there without sleeping for over 1,000 years. Now it's like 1,400 years, which is crazy to put that amount of free information out there into the world, because my goal is simple. I want to make growing food as accessible to as many people as possible. And in order to do that, we have to understand that everyone is coming from a different context. They have different goals, different wants. They may only have a balcony. They may only have access to a community garden. They may have a 1,000-acre farm. Wherever they're coming from, they're going to have their own individual needs and context. And I think sometimes in this modern era, it's so tempting to just try and simplify and say, we should all grow potatoes this way. And it's just like, there's over 100 ways to grow a potato, and every single way will give you potatoes. And I think that is what's like so exciting about growing, is I think actually we're missing out on a lot of untapped potential of what we can produce here in the UK and on our allotments. And my favourite thing to do is to go against the status quo and be a bit of a rebel and try out some new things and see what's possible, because there are some major hurdles that gardeners face. Partly access to compost is a huge one. So that's been something I've been really trying to dive into, particularly with the rising prices of compost and trying to find good quality compost. But I also write lots of books. This is the first time I'm saying it in front of an audience, but I've got an edimentals book, which means edible ornamentals, coming out in October this year. So if you're looking for a Christmas gift, for people full of pretty flowers and everything that you can eat. But you might recognize one or two of my books. The main thing I'm focusing on is the self-sufficiency garden, the green one, which is the one scaled off a half-size allotment plot. And then that led on to how to grow food, which again is basically crop by crop, how to grow it, splitting up every single vegetable into 3 simple steps on how to grow it, and then how to cook and preserve it, and also scaled to a metre square. If you've got 3 square meters that you want to grow potatoes, it's just plug and play. We just give you the main things to follow, and then if you want to mulch with grass clippings, or if you want to add some seaweed feed or anything, it's totally up to you, because you have free will and you can do whatever the hell you want. So I also run a plant nursery. I know I was speaking to a couple of people yesterday when I said that the plant nursery is completely peat-free. And it has been. I didn't actually know peat was a thing. I thought peat was a guy when I was 18. I like you have John Innes, so surely you have Pete, you know, because basically I just grew in cow manure. But yeah, it's the whole point of the plant nursery is growing unusual edibles and perennial vegetables, and we sell online. We started last year, and it's a huge amount of fun. I have a map which has shown all of the orders around the UK, which is very exciting. But really trying to like push the boundary. I know a lot of large plant nurseries are really not coping with trying to transition out of peat. Whereas for me, I learned to grow and water not knowing that peat was a thing. So in a way, I've got a bit of an advantage there. And yeah, it's a huge amount of fun. Now let's get into business. This here is my self-sufficiency garden. So this is 125 square meters. So it's exactly half a tennis court within the white lines. Apparently, according to something called the National Allotment Society, a full-size allotment is 250 square meters. Now, times are changing. People are getting small allotments, half size, quarter size, eighth size. Does 16th exist?
Not yet.
Well, it will by the end of today. Because I will make you know that every meter matters. Every single meter matters. Okay, and you will see this. I think it's very easy. One of the things that like really kind of inspires me is that so many people have excuses. They're like, oh, it's not much space, you can't grow a meaningful amount of food, or oh, it's a bit too late in the season, there's nothing to like sow now. I hate excuses. I want to give people reasons to grow, reasons to believe, reasons to think that you can grow a lot. But unfortunately, just saying that isn't good enough, because they're like, where's the evidence? And I'm like, fair enough. So I made you the evidence. This here was a project that I did in 2023, starting with a blank slate with my colleague, Sam Cooper, who is a chef by trade. I rescued him from the hospitality industry 2 years prior. Poor guy, he didn't know what the sun was. He was a chef and he was like, wow, is this like what vitamin D feels like? He also didn't know how to deal with tea breaks. He was like, I should be peeling potatoes. But it's been like such a beautiful thing to work with him and get his viewpoint on basically every chef knows that the quality of your meal is dictated by the quality of your ingredients. And what we have as gardeners is we have the best ingredients. And I love that. So when it comes to cooking, it's actually keeping things simple, because you don't have to pepper it with loads of seasonings, no pun intended, to make it palatable. We've got the most beautiful, delicious produce. You know, one of the dangers that I tell people if they're getting into gardening is I tell them, don't grow tomatoes. Because the moment you try a homegrown tomato, any tomato you have is going to be a bitter disappointment. And I don't want people to live with disappointment. Life is too short. So don't grow your own tomatoes unless you've made that mistake and you've started it. Keep it to yourself. All right? What grows in your garden, you know. So the Sam. Now, I was just punching in this morning after a nice big breakfast. I was working out some of the numbers, what they mean based off what I gathered. So in a very simple sense, this garden here in the first 9 months produced 580 kilograms of food, all completely organically, 580 kilos of food from scratch. And this is really important, right? That was not including the marrows. I was not wanting to cheat. It would have been well over a ton if I included the marrows, but they were not allowed to be part of that. And so, but it's like 580 kilos. How do you quantify what that is? So what it is just over 7,000 portions of your 5 a day that I grew in 9 months on a half-size allotment plot, which is enough fruit and veg to provide 4 adults with their 5 a day, 365 days a year. So I measured everything that was coming out, even the chives. 7 more grams, yes. And you can see the way it's laid out that there's some things direct. So there was always succession planting. So there's always something that was going in as soon as something was being harvested. So some things had maybe 3 crops over the periods of a growing season. And the other thing is that I measured the time because people are like, oh yeah, but you're probably doing that full time. No, on average during the growing season, it took about 6 hours of work. So that could be like two nice mornings. And people don't believe me, and that's fine. You don't have to believe me. But I did measure it, and the thing that made it work was I did a different kind of planting plan. Instead of doing an overview of what the year was going to look like over the winter months, I created a month-by-month planting plan to know. So every month, I wouldn't actually guess what would be needed. That planting plan told me what I need to sow, what I need to harvest, what I need to transplant, and it just guided me through. And because you've got quite a small space, it took me like, I don't know, like 10 seconds to work from one end to the other. It just meant that I could put everything into nice bite-sized pieces and grow a huge amount of food from it. Now, taking on from this, one of the things is, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, is like rising food prices and the cost of oil and what knock-on impact that's going to have on us. Because I saw something like terrifying a few years ago when I'm really passionate into things like regenerative agriculture as well. And I was doing a lot of research with like industrial farming. And in some cases, on average, you need 10 oil calories to produce 1 calorie of edible food, which is probably the most inefficient system I've ever come across. So with the cost of oil going up, what is the knock-on impact going to be on our food prices and prices eating out in restaurants in a few months' time from now when the harvests come in? And so that's something that I'm like really passionate about trying to get across and to tell people, actually, no, if you have access to some growing space, you can make a noticeable difference. Even if you have 6 square meters, you can grow a lot of food. So this turned in to if say anyone wanted to be as mad as me and grow nearly 600 kilos of food, if that was scaled to over the 330,000 allotment plots, if on average each one was half size, we would need only around 5.5% of the UK's arable cropland to produce enough fruit and veg to give the entire population of the UK their 5 a day for a year. So there's whatever you grow in your allotment is having a direct impact. But in terms of thinking about, there's this like beautiful book called Small is Beautiful, and that is like that I think is so apparent when it comes to allotments and gardens, and actually having that little bit of space, we're able to manage it a lot more effectively rather than field scale horticulture. So allotments can provide such an amazing, and they do provide such an amazing supplementation of food for up to like millions of people a year through sharing your harvest. That's the point of marrows. Lobbing them over to your neighbours, find creative ways, leave it on top of their car roof so they have to touch it. But I just think that's crazy. Like thinking about the amount of like food, and that's arable land. I grow on what isn't really arable land. It's not classed as arable land, but you'll see in a bit I grow loads of different things there. But in other words, compared to arable land in the UK, if we looked at the I'll just skip through that. Oh yeah, there we go. This is cool. So in other words, so with what we're producing right now, with the scale of the allotments we have, which is less than 1% of the UK's arable land area, this is supplying over 1 million people with their 5 a day. So anyway, tomatoes. Does anyone like green zebra? Does anyone grow green zebra? Who's never heard of green zebra tomatoes? Why don't you watch my videos? Green zebras are those green ones, and they're absolutely delicious. They've got this beautiful like tangy sweetness to them, and they pair beautifully with a little bit of mozzarella. So if there's one thing to take away from this talk, it's
Green zebra.
green zebra. That's it. This is, I'm just going to show you a little bit about my site. This was back in 2023 when you can see that new thing there was building the self-sufficiency garden, but there's more space around it. And then this was a little bit later that year, quite wild. And then the site has continued to grow ever since. And this was earlier this year, before the leaves properly came out. So you can see how big we're growing it. And there's so many different areas there. And one of my favorite things to do is to experiment and try new things and push against the norm. So you can see that there is a tiny self-sufficiency garden, but it's also the most productive space that I have on this land. This is really important though. This is what I actually find quite exciting about rising food prices, is rising food prices are doing something remarkable. They're making homegrown food more valuable every single year. The tomatoes, potatoes, and fruit you grow today aren't just harvests, they're a hedge against an increasingly expensive food system. But there are a couple of major bottlenecks. One thing I want to do is maybe change our thinking a bit, because we probably have all heard of something called no dig. I'm here to not tell you have to no dig, which might be quite refreshing, right? Yeah. So I used to be on the no dig bandwagon, right? Because it was a trend and I couldn't critically think, and I was like, woo, let's do it. Goodness me, I bought so much compost. So much compost, I'd have a 10-ton lorry coming with compost to drop off. But no dig, it works if you've got the compost. But then I suddenly realized that this is actually quite, in some ways, elitist. If you don't have access to a lot of compost, then how do you deal with that? And it really got me thinking, because really the whole job of permaculture is problem solving and trying to find other solutions. So here's something really interesting. If someone says, you need to be no digging, I will say no dig is my default, but I don't rely on compost, which is crazy. So when someone says, oh, you need to be no digging, what you can say is, okay, what does most of your garden comprise of? Well, if we look at nature, most of what you grow come from annual plants that have been cultivated to produce food. Where do you find annual plants in nature? You only find annual plants where ground has recently been disturbed. Nature works on succession, which means it's always going towards a perennially dominated system. So if a landslide happens, or some wild boar come along, or a tree falls over, the whole point of weeds is to protect the ground, because nature doesn't like bare soil. So the only time that you actually see annuals growing in a natural environment is where you have had a little bit of disturbance, which is just an important thing to bear in mind, because if you're actually I'm a nature guided gardener, technically that means that if I want to do what nature does, a little bit of forking over or being a bit heavy on the rake or something is actually more natural than nothing at all. Because if you look at a forest system, leaves fall on the ground, it's not then compost. It takes time to break down. And one of the biggest challenges that I found with compost is not just because it's expensive and you've got to produce a lot, but that we are not respecting compost enough. So often in one day kind of gardening, social media, Instagram, these kind of things, the common narrative is that compost is a blanket solution. So if there's any problem that you have, put more compost, right? That's great. It's oh, if you have a problem, just throw more money at it, then it will be fine, right? That to me doesn't build a resilient system. What does build a resilient system is actually taking a little bit of a step back and looking at compost as a precision tool. So I haven't had to buy compost for my self-sufficiency garden for the last 3 years because it produces all of its own. in its own little cold compost bin and a hotbed, and I'll talk about pathway composting a bit very quickly. But if I'm, for a lot of cases, I don't need to put down 2 inches of compost every single year because I might just be growing leafy greens in that bed later. So what I actually do is I use mulch over the winter months, which you can see here. Leaves, by March, they're practically all broken down. The soil is beautiful, light and fluffy. Any big bits I can rake off, but that's happening outside of the slug season because everyone's like, oh, mulch equals slugs kind of thing. But if you time it right and you put down things like grass clippings, hay even, I've done a whole video on hay that went up yesterday that goes through a lot of people's weeds and stuff, so you can watch that video. But with putting down these things, by spring, I've got like chocolate cake soil that is full of worms. And you know what no dig? If you do no dig just with compost, you're actually missing out activating most of the soil food web. Because compost is mostly broken down. Yes, it's still going to decompose, but it's only really the microbes that are going to benefit from that. You're not activating things like maybe like ground beetles or earthworms pulling down the organic material. I was always like, I'm doing so much no dig, there's so much compost, but why do I never see earthworms? It's because there's not enough food for them. And I want to work with nature. I want nature to actually work hard for me to grow me lots of food. So I've actually found that my garden is becoming so much more healthy by mulching over winter, activating the whole entirety of the soil food web. And if I do need a bit of compost when I'm planting out the pumpkin, I'll just put that at the base of the transplanting hole, mix it together, maybe a little layer of soil over the top and plant it just to encourage the roots to go up. And that's all I need. And now I don't have compost anxiety, and it is beautiful. And then no one needs to have compost anxiety. That has been my favourite thing. And now I'm like, you know, gardening is possible, and I will stand up for it. But I also think it's really important to stand up to people who say you have to do it this way, you shouldn't do it that way. Because as I said before, there's over 100 ways to grow a potato. So I'll just finish off. This is like my mindset. Bill Mollison is the founder of, one of the co-founders of permaculture, and he's got this beautiful quote that you can apply to anything. The yield of a system is theoretically unlimited, or limited only by the information and imagination of the designer. You can swap out the 2 words highlighted to be the yield of a garden is theoretically unlimited, or limited only by the information and imagination of the gardener. You can do it in other ways. The yield of a classroom is theoretically unlimited, or limited only by the information and imagination of the teacher. So this is kind of my mantra that so much as possible. It's a bit like trendy, but growth mindset. Okay, I'm really trying to apply that and to show that there is so much that I love it, because the more that I learn, the more I realise I don't know, and it's very humbling, but it's really fun. So just 2 last little tips. If you've got really small spaces, and this is part of the idea of like helping people produce their own compost, one of some of you, who knows Liz Zorab? Yes.
It rings a bell.
It rings a bell. Liz Zorab, good friend of mine, fellow gardening YouTuber. She would mulch all of her pathways with wood chip, and after a couple of years it's broken down, she would scoop it up, put it on beds as almost like compost. And I thought, genius, if you've got a small space. Most people are like, I don't want to give up a square meter for a compost bin. Quite right, but you know, compost is very valuable. By the way, before I forget, based on the yields of the self-sufficiency garden, the average was 8 kilos of food per square meter. That was including the fact that I grew like edible flowers and pretty garnishes and stuff. But an average portion of vegetables of your 5 a day is 80 grams. So that means 100 portions of food per square meter at least. So if you only have 3 square meters, you can grow 300 portions of food. So if you've only got a small space, hopefully that, even if people are telling you, oh, I don't really think I have enough space to grow food, just remember 1 square meter can give you 100 portions of vegetables. But anyway, I then thought this is a great idea by Liz. So instead of sacrificing growing space, every garden has pathways. So put all of your veg scraps, weeds, everything on the path, walk over it, And after about 2 or 3 months, once it was full and I turned it once or twice, I had a beautiful amount of compost. There was enough compost to mulch both beds with 2 inches of compost, and I hadn't sacrificed any growing space whatsoever. So you can make compost in your pathways. The other thing is this is a top tip. If you have comfrey, grow Bocking 14 comfrey because that's sterile. It doesn't spread everywhere like the normal comfrey. But I was like, okay, my this is a hotbed, which is a style of composting. I was like, I know when it rains, there are going to be some nutrients that are leaving, and I want those nutrients. They're mine. How dare they run away? And I was like, what is a natural net that I could use to help soak up and capture those nutrients to use elsewhere? And I was like, actually, if I do it on the lower side of the slope, plant some comfrey along the base of the hotbed. On the first year of planting it, I got 4 cuts from planting out root cuttings, 4 harvests of comfrey from root cuttings because it was so nutritious. And that made all of the feed that I needed for the whole garden, for like all of my tomatoes and everything from that little area. So I was utilizing something that would otherwise have been wasted. So it's just trying to put those little things together. There are so many clever ways to make your gardens more productive. Perennial vegetables is another thing that I'm exploring hugely, especially like perennial kales. They're like the gateway drug into the perennial vegetable world. They're evergreen, harvesting 365 days a year. Take cuttings from them, amazing. Edimentals is great because it's actually an opportunity. Instead of thinking you either have an ornamental garden or an edible garden, well, actually you can combine them both and also help biodiversity and insects as well. And really, the main kind of important thing to think about is if we reduce our dependence on external sources of compost, what ends up happening is I actually think investing in creating a garden space or having an allotment, a productive garden is one of the few assets that become more valuable every time that food prices rise. And I think that this is such an important message we have to get across to young people as well. We're feeling hopeless because one of the reasons why we all love to spend time in our allotments is that it's an opportunity to switch off from the world and to escape. And that pays dividends as well. Plus you get some good answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Inspiring as always. I've never actually thought I was compost conditioning. You know. We now come to a little bit of a sad. We come to the obituaries. You will look around the room and you will say, where's that tall lad? Oh, I'm afraid we have a few people to remember. Neil Dixon.
Lower your mic.
Well, it's just, so I'll get these people in from Wales, you know, and they're alone as they've been growing on compost. Trading on the mats. Sorry. Thank you. So we remember Neil Dixon, Brian Dougherty, Wyn Marshall, Trevor Matthews, John Monkhouse, and very recently, Colin Bedford. Can we please stand? In silence. In memory of fellow gardeners. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And while you're sitting down, we shall also mention the apologies for absence that we have already received, and they came from Aaron Penny. I would now like to invite Ray Howe. Not Ray Howe. Sorry. Well, I've got it on my sheet.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, we can have a quick toilet break. Really?
Yeah.
That's very generous of you, you said my children would. So we've got a quick toilet break. It's not big,
Straight back.
5 minutes. Is that going to be enough time?
Yeah.
Okay. You say it's going to be enough time for it.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Smells, the tea and coffee. Won't be enough time at 5 minutes.
Tony. Great, John.
Tell me who it is. No, hence the look of make on his face.
Well, you know how she says. There will be I'm just like, so then yesterday she's like, don't show me the face of each other. I just said, we are all done. Yeah, I didn't know.
So what's that? Absolutely, very nice space. Yeah, just for the funny. Yeah, I don't think it's on. That's all right. I'll call that to be deliberate. You know that? Yeah. Well, we're gonna have some next. Asking some questions. He's doing it. He's told. So you're talking ways getting, you got lost a week again. 50 ton cost of you. You got a lot of money. We get that. We have 3 bays. We have full sleeves and compost. It's rated at inventory. Yeah, we used to get wacky growing medium. And also quite a bit of but now they do care, we never see it. You just you can take it on the right, that must be their policy. Just
You go in there.
Yeah, yeah. We made it go, and I've been waiting for that. Nobody, not much shot in.
It's just remind me, trying to let it just pay for.
No, we found an issue.
I very stupid. I can say this guy, can't you? Yeah, but she's gonna use it on there anyway. So I mean, she's gonna use it.
Yeah.
All right, so I press minus. Easily on this. Yeah. As soon as I've got just these numbers, I'll press minus. And then it should show up on the next one. Okay. Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. At least I'll sit there and do it for you now. This is it. Yeah, I said I think
Alright, should we get everybody in and let's get started? Trying to go Thank
no, no, yeah, when you're ready. No, you don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry.
I guess like. Be ready to go. John's going to share.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can we please settle? Thank you. We're now on to the next section. Beverly Hills. You're going to talk about compliance committee.
The progress. Yeah.
Thank you.
About 3 minutes early.
Great.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. So I'm talking on to the introduction. Anybody who didn't hear that, I'm Beverly Dawson, and I'm one of the 3 members of the compliance committee that are here today. We also have, stand up, we have Andrew Brody, and we have Graham. I'll keep this very brief. So what is the Compliance Committee, or the CC as we affectionately refer to ourselves? Well, it's new. It's been formed since the last AGM. and it replaces the previous governance committee. So the change in structure and name was approved at the last AGM, and the structure comprises of 3 lay members and 2 representatives from the management committee. So lay members include myself and Andrew, and Ray is from the management committee. Our objective is some activities is a full overview within this year's annual report, we should all have a copy of. And it also includes the compliance oversight, the AGM, and voting procedures that we're here to oversee. Now, sadly, one of our lay members recently had to step down for personal reasons. We do need to recruit a replacement from the lay members, someone that's not already on the management committee. So now here, hoping that maybe we might have volunteers. If anybody is interested in joining us, then if you'd like to try and grab one of the 3 of us and have a chat, or alternatively contact us via head office, and we can start moving forward with that. That would be lovely. Okay. Apart from that, I've been asked to run through a few administration points for the meeting. John touched on one at first, but a few more details. So, with motions, the proposer has 2 or 3 minutes to introduce their motion, or that can be raised by the chair. The seconder can add a short comment, very short, concise. Members may comment, but if they comment and if they wish to debate, it must be kept concise and respectful. The chair may close discussions if the debates become repetitive or we're running out of the time limit. If anybody does want to raise a comment, or a point of order, or a procedural motion, don't raise your hand. Then introduce your name and your membership. Keep your comments brief, relevant, always respectful. Always address remarks to the chair. And keep any debate limited because we do need to keep the agenda on track. Okay, a couple of points on voting. You should have all been given one of these click pads. Does anybody not have a clicky pad that just have a vote? Good. So to use the clicker pad, hold it in your hand, facing yourself, if you're comfortable. When you want to place a vote, you press the button firmly just once. Okay, that's simple. At the end of the business session, so before lunch, could you hand your clicker pad back to Lisa? And Lisa's pointed out to me that each clicker pad has a unique number. She knows who you are. When it comes to voting, wait until the question appears on the screen and the chair has opened vote. And press the number on your clicker pad. 1, 2, or 3. Number 1. All right, 0. I haven't got it. 0 on the note. No, 3's up there. No. We've got 0 definitely on the sheet. Okay, I'll change that. On 2 or 0. Thank you. Okay. So press 1 for 4 before the motion. Press 2 if you're against the motion, and 0, not 3, 0 if you wish to abstain. Once you've pressed it, the number, there's a little screen here on the click pad, and the number that you press will briefly flash up on the little screen. So check it to make sure that your vote has been registered. If it doesn't appear, then press it firmly again once. if you press the click pad, if you press a number 1, 2, or 0 more than once, providing the vote is still open, the last number you pressed will be the one that is registered for your vote. So if you do accidentally press 2 and you meant to press 1, you then press 1 firmly and quickly. You can change, providing the vote is still open. Once it's shut, once the vote is closed, the last number you press will be the one that's counted. If anybody has any issues and any problems using the clicker pad or the vote, raise your hand and one of the members of the staff will come and help you. Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Election of tellers.
Sorry. So, Susan. Susan, we have asked you to point out. So this is Susan. Susan is responsible for the proxy and the remote voting. So Susan will be adding those votes to the count. Okay.
Election of tellers.
Electronic, yes. Oh, finally, can I have 2 volunteers from the membership to act as tellers? That won't involve any counting at all. It's just procedural, just in case there are any issues we need to fall back on or anything we need to verify. 2 people, please.
Good,
Thank
we've got
you.
2 there.
Can we just have the name and the membership? Sorry, so what's your name?
I'm off, Lucy.
And which, are you from an association or an individual?
Russell Town Community Allotment.
Perfect. And the St John's Allotment, did you get that? Elizabeth Beeston, is it? Peaston. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.
Oh my God, hold on, but I've got it print.
Should we the acceptance and the report? Which report? Yes. We've all got copies. We need to put a copy. Yes. Good morning. I'm Harold, as you may know. Been here before. I think that I've had enough one. So the first piece of business we've got is to accept the minutes from last year's meeting. We've all got a copy, I believe. So annual general meeting, first thing class. Right, so maybe you'll need to find it. And then you get Roger and the second. Roger and the second are there.
Guys, the proposal. And just to show our hands for this.
Can I have any abstention? Any abstention? Anybody against? So it's unanimous. All in favour. Thank you very much. On to me. Comments. Well, we've had a busy year. Comments are in the book. I'm going to read them all, but I'll just do the highlights or lowlights, whichever they are. Yeah, we've had a successful year. We've had a good year. Is that any better? Oh. Right, we've had a busy year, successful year. Throughout, we've had shows, highly attended. We've had various meetings and dealings with various organisations, RHS, DEFRA, and we're doing well, I think, as an organisation. We've got plans, moving towards our anniversary, which is in 100 years in 2030. We'll be 100 years old then, since the government split us up from the NFU. And we have a strategy in place now that takes us up to that, a 5-year strategy with various aims, and I can go through them if you wish, but it's been discussed and sorted out and arranged with a management committee, and to that extent, as I say, we're all going well. This year, our theme for Allotment Week is Grow to Learn, which again I think is mirrored by the RHS. They're doing a similar thing to us, or promoting us and helping us, and that's our theme for National Allotment Week. We've had our MOT this year. We've had a service. The management committee has been reviewed by the court. They produced a report which I can't tell you about yet because we haven't discussed it. I don't know whether I'm even supposed to mention it, but I haven't. We're all in good fettle for another year, apparently. And I've had my issues as well with health and various problems, but so I've had a lot of support, obviously, as you would expect, from my wife. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the partners and spouses of the members of the management committee for their patience in what we do and the time we spend visiting allotments, discussing allotments, going down to the Corby for meetings and the rest of it. They're very patient and supportive, answering the phone and putting up with each other. Long periods of time discussion. I know my own wife does. So I'd like to a round of applause for spouses and partners. I'd also like to thank the staff for all their hard work. A good team we've got, and they do behave and perform as a team, and I think they're excellent as well. If the members of the staff would like to stand up so we can all
Take it, yeah.
And then I'd like to thank all the members of the management committee. So if they could stand up so we can all identify who they are and their culprits of the various regions. Chairperson, President in role, and Jeff, our former president, who was standing in for us. I think he did nearly 2 years as a stand-in. Very appreciative of Jeff, a wise head on young shoulders. So, and he's still with us and still hasn't fallen out with anybody too much. And John, his replacement.
We probably will fall out with people.
Well, he's got fences to build anyway, before he starts. But yeah, thank you very much. And I think that's about all I need to say. Yeah, I think everything's going well. Anybody wants to ask any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Have a question at the back.
Lady there. No,
Hello there, I'm Sarah Barden from Clapham in Bedfordshire, Clapham Allotments. Thank you very much for giving us that overview there, Mike. And I just wonder, people like me, maybe I'm an individual member and part of my association, but could you just tell us a bit more about the management committee in terms of the management committee is volunteers, you're obviously working with the staff of the association, but how often do you meet and is it the management committee collectively with the staff of the association setting the strategy for the allotment society, and just a bit more about how all these ideas come together and the routine or the heartbeat of how you meet and discuss things and that bit, the rhythm, I think, is probably what I'm trying to ask you about. Thank you.
Yep, I'll do my best to answer that. Yeah, there are 11, I think the country's split into 11 regions. When I say the country, just England and Wales at the moment. Scotland, there are discussions to join Scotland to us, they want to, but that's not happening yet. So 11 regions. We have regional meetings, 4 a year in each region, including the AGMs, and each region has someone who represents that region. They're actually the court decided directors. We are a board, and the elected person who is then ratified by this AGM on a 3-year basis. They're elected for three terms of 3 years at the moment, and they attend meetings together. We now do Zoom as well as in person. The mixtures of both of them. The way down to Corby. We meet at least 4 times a year, including the AGM. It's actually more often because we have ad hoc meetings just where we discuss regional problems to help, especially if a person is a new member of the management committee and gets problems in their region, they might want to get the experience from other regions. Oh, we had that problem, and this is what we did, or swap ideas. And we have discussions, and then we vote on the strategy. But the strategy, Sonia worked hard on the strategy for us, and it was chosen, as I said, by the management committee with discussions, and bits were taken in and bits were taken out, and that's how we came up with a strategy. I think it's been published, the strategy, has it? It's in this report on the website, and it's in the magazine. Is that sufficient, or okay? Any more? Anything else? Anybody? I think not, because when everybody's happy, I'm sick of hearing one or two. I'd like to think it's the first. Right, thank you very much. I'll hand back to Sonia.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, so Mike's covered all of what I was going to say, so that's just no good now. Now, good morning to everybody. It's great to see so many people in the room, and I was really loving how much everybody was networking out in the foyer. So hopefully you've enjoyed the morning so far. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I just want to cover some of the things, especially some of the progress we've made over the last year. And I want to say it has been a real year of progress, and sometimes you don't always see that because it's behind the scenes. So it's all been meaningful step forward in how we support members, I believe, and how we communicate. And we want to position it Allotment national. So I want to give a brief update of the last year, where we are, and a little bit about where we're going forward. So a little bit on membership and momentum. In the last 2 years, we've seen membership grow in most categories, and we now sit at 132,000 members, which is a great feat. And you saw how many staff were in here and how many volunteers. It's not a huge number. So we support 132,000 members. And the wonderful thing, which I'm always shouting about, is our retention. So our retention for associations is above 90% all year. Now, most associations, and we're told this by the cooperative, sit around 70. So if we're sitting at 90%, I think that means, or it tells us something important, that we're doing something right. And also the interest in allotments isn't slowing down. If anything, it's evolving and growing. And that's thanks to you guys as well. So ultimately, the stronger our membership, the stronger our collective voice. And that's a little bit, I think Hugh mentioned it as well, something about evidencing things. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit as well. So we've been developing and investing in our people. Last year, we really focused on supporting the people behind the movement. So members, staff and volunteers. We've developed a lot of different sessions, and we've delivered development sessions in media, cyber, conflict management, finance, legal, and also support sessions on the use of the website and database, which are pretty simple, but unfortunately we don't all have the time to sit and go through it. So we're doing lots of development in the background on that. Most importantly, I feel that we've delivered diversity and GDPR training, making sure that we are building a society that is not only effective, but inclusive and responsible. We've continued our regional meetings, and that's a little bit about what Mike was saying. Regionally, you should be trying to attend your regional meetings. It's really important that you have your voice, or your association has their voice. So when you see an invitation going out on Zoom or something like that, try and attend these. As I say, it's wonderful to see so many in here, but you're a representation of 132,000. So, you know, it would be great to see more. And I think I've spoken to lots of people about getting more people to come to the meetings, but the regional meetings are so important. We've also had allotment officer forum meetings. So that's for your councils, your parish councils to get development. And that's a space for sharing knowledge. So your regional meetings, allotment officers, it's all about sharing the knowledge. So what Mike says, somebody can learn off each other. The key is we're building, we're improving, and we're moving forward on everything we do. We've also strengthened our foundations. We have updated regional constitutions, which you'll see in your next annual general meeting within your region. Because good governance isn't just about what we say in our rules, it's also about your regional rules. So it's about it gives us the credibility and confidence in what we do as a national organisation. One of the biggest shifts this year has been how we communicate. So we're always trying to improve our communication. So we've done a lot more on socials, you'll see all of that. But what we are trialing is direct communication. Previously, we were speaking to just main contacts of associations. Doesn't always work 100%. So we're trialing direct communication to affiliate members within that association. The trial's going well, it's quite slow, so that's why we're rolling it out slowly to make sure everybody's on board with it. And it matters because we want everybody to feel connected. So we don't want just the main contact of your association to be connected, we want everybody to feel connected. We're also taking a lot more closer look at how members use the website, and we're also going to develop that. So we always look at all your feedback, and we try and implement it with any new things that we're doing. We're also seeing lots of change in social media. Hopefully you all follow us on Facebook or Instagram. It'd be great to know all of you that are doing that and commenting. So our Facebook has had real traction as well. So we started last year, obviously I'm talking mainly about last year. We started last year with Facebook at just over 17,000 followers. That's gone up to 28.5. So that's amazing, it's a big achievement. And on Instagram, again, we've had a huge increase. We went from over 4,000 to over 10,000, which means it opens us up, it spreads our message. So that's what we need you to keep doing, following that. So I'm sure you're all going to go home, follow you, look at his YouTube clips, and then come on and follow us and make sure you're following us too. At the same time, we want to be more visible. So we're increasing our success in media coverage. So we've had a lot more national media coverage as well, which means we're getting involved in more national conversations. Mike touched on some of the partnerships, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, but we do work with DEFRA, we work with the RHS. You saw that we invited National Vegetable Society today, so we're trying to work with new partners, new organisations to make sure we're spreading the word and we're involved in all of those national conversations. We've also sponsored a short film. I don't know if you've seen anything that was said about that in socials and on the magazine. It's called Deadheading, and it's a dark comedy, so it's not going to be specific for everybody, but it's a bit of fun. So when you watch it, please take on board that it is a dark comedy. I'm really delighted to say that NAS members have got an advanced private screening in August, so you'll be able to watch that and give us some feedback as well. So hopefully we'll see it maybe winning some prizes at the Oscars or something like that for a short film. And there's some great stars in there as well, so we're only sponsoring part of it. Once again, the highlights, I think, has been National Allotment Week. Last year I talked about what the theme was, and Mike's touched upon that, but last year I talked about our theme, and I'm so pleased so many people got involved. One of, I feel, the highlights was this survey. So we introduced a survey about wellbeing, which was the theme last year. This is all available, the results are all available on the website for you to look at. I talked about evidence. That gives us evidence because we had nearly 2,000 respondents to that survey, which is amazing. It's not something that normal surveys would get 2,000. Even Morrifields don't always get that. So it's important that we see that because it gives us, again, evidence and information that people use. Within that, it said 90% of allotments improve the mental health of the 2,000 that were following this survey. So there's some really good information there. The other thing to think about is other businesses such as DEFRA are actually using that survey results in their presentations. So people like DEFRA are using our information statistics. So looking ahead, we still want to expand member benefits, and the management team are working hard at looking at the research and support that improvement. We're also, and hopefully you've seen that and shared it, we're also carrying out a survey this year of the National Survey of Local Authorities. We haven't done that survey in 30 years. So this is its 30-year anniversary this year, and that's why we thought we'd do it. So hopefully that's going to give us a clear picture of provision. It will give us the real data, and it also gives an evidence of the unmet need that's out there from the council point of view. I talk about evidence a lot because that's what we need. We can't just say it's my gut feeling, this is what I think we should do. So we need evidence. The management committee need evidence, statistics to be able to improve what we do and make sure our strategies fit to what it needs to do. So evidence is really important. You may have seen Kate Randall in the foyer, we're also sponsoring her research tutorial. And if you haven't, she'll still probably be there. Make sure you have a chat with her. So again, this is evidence that then we can say, this is what we feel you should need to do next. So we're always building new relationships. As I say, DEFRA, RHS, we're really into a lot of networking groups with those. So any new pieces of legislation or information that comes up, we're involved in that at the ground floor. Again, I do want to say thank you to our partners. I don't think, yes, Tracy there. I do want to say thank you to our partners. You would have seen hopefully Chris Knott in the foyer as well. They're amazing and they're very supportive, and also Kings are there, and I know a lot of people go over and see Kings on the day, but Kings are here and they're very supportive of us as well. And I'm sure you all purchase receipts from them, hopefully. But yes, so our partners mean a lot to us, and they also help us extend our reach and strengthen our work. So it's really important that we support those members and those partners as well. So looking ahead, as I said, we're looking at better communication, stronger support for members, continued growth. And I think it's important that we always know every member plays a part in strengthening the movement. So every time you talk about who we are, then that strengthens the movement because we get more members from that way. So I want to thank all of our ambassadors. We've got 2 ambassadors in the room today. So thank you to Sarah and Zoe and Matthew Mullen around as well. And I also want to thank all the volunteers, so the management committee, but also all of the regional volunteers. Without the regional volunteers, we wouldn't be able to successfully run such a large organisation. So it's really important that we recognise all of the volunteers. So they may only volunteer for a show, or they'll volunteer to do real work for us out there in helping the membership. And also the staff, Mike's obviously thank those as well. So it's really good because we try and work in partnership with everything we do. So thanks again for everybody coming along. And if you've got any questions, happy to answer them, or I can answer them afterwards. I'll be here all day. Regarding the direct, regarding the direct communications that you've mentioned, direct to affiliate members, is this only to those associations that have opted in? Yes, to
so
direct communications? Yes, there's a full process. Obviously, we've got to follow GDPR, and we've got to make sure that everybody feels comfortable. Just because you opt in to get direct communication as an affiliate member, it doesn't mean that you're going to get bombarded with any publicity. It's only for our publicity, so it'll be something like the newsletter. So yes, they have to opt in. There's still a process, and that's what we've been doing. That's why we're doing it slowly, to make sure everybody's comfortable with ticking that box to say they want the communication directly to them. Thank you. If you can just say your name for the minutes as well.
Esther Burdick, I'm from Birmingham, Federation of Allotment Associations and also Ward End Gardens Association, which is on site. Just a couple of questions, you could comments really, is about the role of federations, which is different from associations.
Yes, yeah.
And the other thing is about justifying the need to keep sites rather than selling them off. We have cases in Birmingham, I'm sure elsewhere in the country, where allotment land is being sold off. The Secretary of State is giving permission and the NAS seems to be being either ignored or their recommendations not being taken into account. If you could comment on either of those.
I'll try. Obviously, sale of sites, there was a lot of publicity last year, national publicity, and we were able to do that. A lot of it was scaremongering. Obviously, when a site is there and possible for disposal, there's a system that's already held with the Secretary of State. They have to come to us first. So last year we opposed 2 of the 8 that we got. So we opposed 2 and we were successful with that. We don't automatically oppose them. And again, we work with the regions on that. We wouldn't automatically oppose them. One, it wouldn't make sense because obviously then we would just be opposing every single one. If something better, and that's what happens, the news didn't report correctly last year. So sometimes they'll say we're getting rid of 2 plots, perhaps, but they still have to do the application. So they might be getting 2 plots or even a whole site, but offering something else somewhere else. So again, it goes to Tyler in legal. He reviews it with the regional representative to go out and do the practical visit, and then it will come back. And if it feels like it needs to be opposed, we will do that. So if they're just taking the land because they want to build houses or something like that, we will automatically oppose something like that. So it has to be justifiable for us to do it, or else we would lose credibility, I think, with the government. So we don't always hear back that they've agreed with the opposition, but there is a whole process that we go. So we will always try and fight it with you. We can't fight private land, but we will support if you're trying to do that. Now the support is the legal support that we can offer. So we had 400 inquiries on legal last year. So it's really important that we try and focus on supporting, obviously, the statutory land, which is where the statutory legislation sits. But private land itself, we will support you and support you with some areas of where you can potentially get other help to get that support. Sorry, your other question, Hester, sorry. Federation. Okay. Thank you.
Just to say that an approval has gone ahead on quite a big site in Birmingham recently, and we didn't get to hear about it except after it had been approved, and there was opposition through us.
Was
through the
it a
NAS.
statutory site or?
It's a statutory site, yes.
Okay, we'll look into that. Let's chat about that in the break. We'll have a chat and just check, because we should always be informed of any disposal. That is the process. They have to inform the NAS. That's one of our stipulations, and it's in legislation as well.
So the other thing is about
Federation.
the model for federations. We've had a problem in trying to get ourselves a cooperative status for the confederation, and the model that's there doesn't quite fit. So developing the model for federations over the next year will be really helpful.
Okay.
For other federations as well as ours.
Yeah. Okay. So federations are quite unique, and there's not as many as them as there used to be, as you know. So we've got, again, one of those partnerships that we're building a stronger relationship with is the cooperative. So something like that we can take out of here and speak to the cooperative and see what they can do. They're very keen on listening to us, and we are actually a federation member of the cooperative, and they do listen to things that we have to say because of our membership and because we support the process of going through and becoming a cooperative. So we are a sponsoring body for that. And yeah, so it's something that the cooperative will listen to us. Don't know if they'll do anything about it, but I'm quite happy to take your case forward to them.
Hi, I'm Emma Hawkins. I'm a life member. The site that I'm on left National Allotment Society several years ago. If our lovely new Reform Council decided to take over the site and put houses on it so they can have nice family homes in Romford, what would be NAS's position if we've actually left society? So you've got the old life members.
Yeah, if it's a statutory site, we will support non-member statutory sites anyway. That doesn't matter. If it's a private site, we wouldn't support that because obviously we have to concentrate on the membership. So the membership would always come first. But statutory sites we will support regardless if you're a member or not.
Okay, thanks.
Is that everything? Great stuff. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well,
So it's Terry.
Shall I introduce him? Do you want to introduce him? Oh, you can introduce him. You're in the right, right? Again, thank you very much. Right, we now come to the Treasurer's report. Unfortunately, our Treasurer has stepped down recently on the commitments, but he remains to be, well, he's remaining our Treasurer until after today. So if anybody knows of anybody suitable for a Treasurer, the Treasurer's report's got to be presented. It is the Treasurer's report, but it's going to be presented by Terry Dickinson, who is our Vice Chairman.
Oh, thanks for coming. I'm not going to try and fool anybody. I'm not the treasurer. So, you might not be able to answer any questions. You've got the accounts in all your packs, so you've seen those.
Terry, move the mic.
You've got the accounts in your pack, so I hope you've gone through those. You've also got Jeff's money matters statement. I don't intend to read that line for line. It's pretty positive. There's lots of pluses in there. You can read it all for yourself. What I would say is I would echo Jeff's last sentence, which is he would like to close by thanking all those at HQ for their support in producing information and looking after the day-to-day running of the finances. And I echo that as well. I also echo the appreciation to the ambassadors being here, Kings and Chris Knott. Right, so there are 3 votes to be done. So we need to adopt these accounts. So one for yes.
It's just going to be.
Oh, just a show of hands. Okay. Just a show of hands. So I propose on behalf of the outgoing treasurer that we adopt these accounts now. These accounts for January 2026.
Any questions?
Would it not be better to ask for questions on the account before they're adopted? Proceed.
Well, okay, we'll be brave. My opening remark was, I'm not the treasurer.
No, I accept
If you ask a question, I'll try. I have a comment to make about the accounts.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. I have a comment to make about
Let
the
someone
accounts.
else make it.
I have a comment to make. I'll draw you to the absolutely massive increase in our national insurance bill. But that's another matter. That's an entirely different matter.
Yeah.
What we shouldn't have said.
Any question?
Any questions then about these accounts? Collectively, we'll try to answer.
Well,
Well, nobody got a question.
Guy at the back.
Sorry, my name is Guy Hertlock. I'm the Northern Rep. I just wanted to comment that the accounts clearly show that the income last year rose by more than the costs rose. So that is good news for Nats.
thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else?
I would also like to point out that the cost for running the management company have decreased rapidly, so we're not costing. Leave that. Leave that. So, should we have a show of hands for approval for these accounts, please? Probably did that back to front.
Yeah, that's
I did it back to front.
Yeah, you did.
So,
Any against?
those against, please? Against the adoption of these accounts? Those abstaining from voting?
Oh, there's one, is it an abstention? Oh, abstention, one abstention. One abstention. That's
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Right, so we have a second vote. It's a vote to continue with the auditors we use, MHA Chartered Accountants. We propose that we continue using them. So when we have show of hands for against using the current company, abstain voting from using the current company, and can we vote to continue using? There's a third vote. That is to continue word is continue to approve the accounts in the fashion we do, which we're allowed to do in the cooperative laws, we meet all the criteria, and not to pay for a full audit, which would probably cost us about £15,000 estimate. We currently pay about £5,000 to have the accounts approved. It's perfectly legal. It's FCA approved.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal practice for a cooperative society of our size. So, is anybody against continuing the current approval?
Question.
How long, as you're not treasurer, but I'm sure some collective memory may well be around. How long have we been following this procedure? How many years?
14 years.
Well, from my relatively vast experience of treasurer of national bodies and local bodies, I think that from time to time, we should consider a full audit. And having been treasurer of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, and amongst other things, at least once every 10 years, we should be considering a full audit. It's to protect the staff as much as it is to protect us.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, what do I say to that?
You need a proposal, so you have to propose.
So, if any other questions?
That's too.
All very well.
Hello, Paul Merriweather. I'm a parish council representative, believe it or not. What I suggest we do then is we go back to the management committee and they propose a motion for next year for this to be adopted. In 10 years, they have followed it.
So it's a recommendation for the management
You
committee.
need to take it back, look at it, just consider it, and put it in the motion for next year.
Anybody can propose a motion for the AGM, as long as they get it in.
There was another
Yeah,
question.
the closing vote.
Just closes.
Motion.
My name is Claudia. I'm from St. Mary's Allotment, Wellington Spa. Based on these accounts, the costs are proportional. The cost on these accounts is increased by £30,000, whereas the income increased by £60,000. So what is the budget for next year? Now, what basis is increased with we don't know how should the income proportion.
I'm sorry, but I didn't quite get all that. Please repeat it for me.
The question is that the expenses on this account were increased £30,000, whereas the income was increased £60,000 approximately. Where is the budget before considering increasing 50p membership fees? Were you aware that expenses were not proportionate with respect to the income?
I don't quite follow argument because we put the fees up.
Yeah.
We're by an AGM vote. It's not the management committee that put the fees up. It's the AGM. It's you, the members, and you voted 2 years ago to put the fees up. So now we've reflected, and I should think it's a plus point that we own expenses. Only got £30,000 in the current one.
So my question, I can probably answer that quite quickly. And there is doing an amazing job covering for the treasurer, really. So the budget is agreed at the management level beforehand. So what we did before we even contemplated putting fees up, the motion that was put forward first was a lower fee increase, and it was an amendment by a member who said it should be higher. Now, what we're doing, and unfortunately it doesn't all happen very quickly, it's not like a normal business, the society, because we have to do a lot of research. So in order to do something new and change, and this is what we've been doing in the last year, we had to increase the fees. So for the budget side of things, which is agreed at management level, it starts in November and it's agreed in each January. So they've already looked at that. Now the costs this year, so it takes a couple of years for it to reflect here, but the costs this year have gone up substantially because we are, and that's maybe something I should have maybe briefed you on, but we're looking at support from people like PR consultants, SEO consultants, which is all to do with the website, very complicated. That's why we're looking at a consultant for it. So we're doing all of that, but in the background, we're also looking at increasing membership benefits, which all are at cost. And some of those figures that we've been banding about are over £100,000. So next year, this will look a very different picture. But again, we do carefully go through the budget before the management committee even accepts it. And that's what you guys, the representatives represent you so that they can make the budgets each year. They can look at the forecasts and what we're looking at every year to make sure we don't lose money. Yes, we're in profit, but you'll notice a lot of the profit that we're in is due to investments and the re-evaluation of investments. That pushes our increases up. So that's a lot of what that is there as well. So it's not as clear as a normal business accounts, although they are business accounts. It's not as clear because the investments are re-evaluated each year, and that's done by our accountants, which Terry informed you of, and the adoption of the new accountants. So it's very different each year. But next year, this picture won't probably look as rosy. Hopefully it does, because we're also looking at new partners to give us more commissions. So we're never stopping in what we're doing to try and increase that. We've really, really managed our cost basis in every area in the last 2 years. So these figures are looking better because of that. So yes, we're still going to try and increase things. And something none of us said, and we should have, the management committee, and we can apply that to the minutes, the management committee have decided there'll be no increase in January. Sorry, to took it from me. So the management committee have agreed there'll be no increase in January next year. So they review that when they're doing the budgets. So the next possible increase will be in 2028. But again, that's something the management committee will look at with this, with the forecast, and with all the budgets that come along with it. Does that hopefully answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great stuff.
Yeah, and we can't put the fees up till 2028.
Yeah.
This may be a clear question you can answer. If not, I'm happy for something to come back to me later. In terms of the investments, who actually commissions the investment companies that we put our money in?
Well, it was the treasurer and the general manager mainly. We were, unfortunately, we were having a meeting, the management committee were going to have a meeting with one of these investments companies. It got put off, so we've got that coming up shortly.
Okay, just a question of how often is that return reviewed compared with other market opportunities?
Annually.
Agree.
And as soon as we, you know what, leave. Thank you very much.
So you haven't agreed.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
One go. But in case I didn't identify myself, I'm Ronald Jones, and I'm a life vice president. The comment has been made about investments. I see from page 17 on the account that you have about £750,000 sitting in investment. Is that correct?
No, I make out £1,043,030 on page 17.
Well,
but my phone goes to Europe.
You're the interim treasurer in inverted commas.
Well,
so your maths are probably better.
I use my phone, it could have been wrong. I made £1,043,030.
I just wonder what has he done with these investments?
That's a very good question, Ron. The outgoing treasurer made a statement. I was talking to someone earlier this morning about the outgoing treasurer, and he made a statement a couple of years ago at one of our meetings, when he plainly said, when he gave us a financial balance, this is the money we've got. And by the way, this is members' money, and we should be spending it on members. And that's what we're looking to do.
Well, that follows on from what I'm about to say. We made a big play about having partners with RHS, and one of the RHS main themes is to encourage people into horticulture. And it has been muted in the past,
that we might support an apprenticeship in horticulture, and could possibly the management committee look at this seriously?
We'll take your point and we will look at it again, but we did. We took those comments a couple of years ago and we advertised nationwide, everywhere, and we got not one single applicant.
I never saw this advert, but I do know from my connections with the University of Liverpool Botanic Gardens that they run apprenticeships in conjunction with the one of the national bodies in the UK, and it's very successful. I do know that speaking of director, I've had informal conversations with him, of course, and he has expressed it.
Okay, so I'll just cover, because I was very closely, I'm fully involved in apprenticeships outside of the NAS. I really support them. And what we tend to do is we'll support students, we'll support research and things like that. We did look into apprenticeships. It would be very difficult for us to support an apprentice, and we do have regional rep in here that already supports an apprentice, not through NAS. We did have our previous horticultural expert, Aaron, who was all ready to go, and his employer was going to employ this potential apprentice. We just couldn't get anyone. We advertised in national agricultural magazines and with all the colleges. It's a very unique apprenticeship. So what we decided, or what the management committee decided, was to support where we could. So our regional reps support their time with apprenticeships. We will involve them in the office. We've got somebody potentially that we're going to give some work experience with accounts and things like that. We will always support where we can in developing that next expert, if we can do that. It's just very difficult with a voluntary organisation with a small staff. We can bring apprentices into the office because they're not going to learn anything about what you guys do out there. So it's a real difficult one. But what they decided to do was support lots of other areas, and that's in research, development with young students, development with universities. So we're constantly trying to work with people. And I think I can fairly say we haven't said no to anybody that's had asked for that support in developing the young minds, really. Yeah, and we work with RHS on schools initiative as well, so we try and support that where we can.
It's David Reid, Birmingham District Allotments and Ward End Allotments. Esther's partner in chief. She's asked me the question, so I'll ask you, and I'm not sure whether we're now devoting the motion to account or appoint prolonged accountants. As I'm understanding things, the primary difference between lay auditors and the full audit is that the full audit company then takes liability for anything that goes pear-shaped, following on from their audit. Is it correct?
Yeah.
Do you know if that's correct or?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
If we vote to have a full audit and spend the money for a full audit.
And are we debating whether we should have a full audit?
No, that's the third.
Every 10 years, there's the gentleman over there.
No, the motion is.
That's okay. The motion happens every year. The motion happens every year. This is something within our rules, so we don't actually have to, unfortunately, put a motion in for this. So this is what happens each year. So you, as a membership, can decide on an inspection which produces this, and this costs us about £5,000. They go through and they inspect the accounts. They ask for lots of different invoices. As in an audit, the audit covers every single invoice and every single cost. So they will take a full, in the inspection, they take a full copy of our account system, which we use Sage. So they will do that now, and that's the inspection. That costs about £5,000. The accountant who came here a couple of years ago advised that a full audit starts at 15,000. I think we're close to probably 20,000. So we can't, the management committee can't just decide, okay, we'll keep going with the inspection, we'll keep going with the full audit. Because it's the members' money, that's why we have to bring it here. So Terry's asking you for a vote of the inspection of accounts, so you have to vote on that. Now, if it's against, then you would vote for a full audit. We don't need a motion because it is set in the rules that we just bring it in each year. Hopefully that's clear. So maybe we could move on to that if that's okay.
we do it every year, so,
Do you accept the account?
Inspection, you need to say the word
do
inspection.
you accept that we continue with the inspection of the accounts? Anybody against that? Accepting?
1, 2, 3,
4.
4, 5.
5. Abstentions?
Abstentions?
One
Two,
abstention.
three. And those voting to continue this year. Inspection of the account. Because we do this every year.
Right, so it's carried.
Carried. One last thing. We are looking for a treasurer. We would like a volunteer. If the treasurer doesn't come forward, we are looking at other ways of doing the role. We're not just sitting there waiting. We are looking for a treasurer. But again, something's advertised widely. It's in the newsletter said, so if somebody would like to step forward and have the role explained to them, then now's the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if it's you or John. Yeah, Mike's got the same on there now, so if you would like to do it, John. It's up to you guys, we can change the name. You're not got a copy there. Just take John's.
So there's one amendment and 2 motions.
Yeah, you do the amendment first. And the 2 motions.
Again? Keep coming back, don't they? And one with these newfangled vote things next is to the motions. I'd like to thank Terry first for manfully there, standing there, taking all the flack and brickbats and whatever, instead of the treasurer. I wouldn't waste it then. We get another one. We're kinder to you during the year. This is the only attacks you'll get, if they are attacked. Right, the motions. We have 1 amendment and 2 motions. We're going to take them in order of the amendment first, and if the amendment is voted for, then it does away with the need for the second motion. So, on your voting card, who wants to be the millionaire? Oh, sorry. No, it's not the same. No. Audience vote now. No, that's not right. Right, in actual fact, right, the amendment is that do not delete Rule 8.6, but to instead amend the wording to the following. Members of the Management Committee elected under Rule 831 shall serve for a 3-year term and will be elected on a rota system set out in Section C of the Standards and Procedures. Said members may also stand for re-election at each election. And that's on behalf of St George's Municipal Gardens and Allotments in the West Midlands. The context is provided solely to support the proposed amendment to motion 1. The intention behind the amendment is to retain the 3-year accountability to the region by the regional representative. It means that as at the moment, after 3 terms of 3 years, the regional representative can no longer stand. We have to choose a new one. And this amendment is to do away with that. The still will be re-elected by the region and have to stand for re-election every 3 years and then stand in front of you people here and be ratified. It's not as easy as it used to be to find volunteers, and it's certainly not as easy to get regional representative volunteers. We do have now a very active process of choosing deputy regional representatives who hope to hopefully share the load, and regions have got more than others, share the load, and if the regional representative can't attend a management committee meeting or something similar, then the deputy can. We're struggling even to find deputies. and people, I mean, we lost Colin this year, we lost Harry last year, and we're not getting any younger, but the people who are in place, e.g., I can only speak for myself on this one, are very experienced at dealing with councils, allotment societies. We know the problems, we know hopefully the solutions to the problems, we can give advice, we can give help. If we automatically lose those, it's a valuable point of experience that we've lost. So the idea is that if somebody wants to take the place, or if we put members every 3 years get the opportunity to do so. But if not, the person who is in place, if they're willing to, can continue. That is the theory behind this vote on the agenda. Is that okay?
It's okay.
Are we ready to vote?
Comments first of all.
Yeah, one over there, please.
Just doing some. What's the small end?
Right, so I'm against this amendment because I don't think you solve the problem of making it difficult to find volunteers by having somebody who can go on standing year after year for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, because actually that person then becomes entrenched. Nobody wants to put themselves forward because they'll be seen as challenging, be seen as threatening. And you've already mentioned that you will lose them anyway for, well, by definition, they're often retired. That's how come we've got the time. And that means that you're getting older, which means that you may lose them for very sad reasons and reasons that you can't stop. So I don't think that this motion will not solve that problem and may actually make it worse.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, your name?
Sorry. Emma Hawkins from Life Member.
Do we have anybody in favour of the motion?
Sorry, there was another call.
Yeah.
Oh,
My name's Tracy Ward. I'm an individual member, but I'm also an allotment member as well. I have volunteered for a national governing body for 12, 15 years, doing conflict resolution, mediation, arbitration, etc. And the national governing body that I have volunteered for decided 2 years ago, I suppose, that they'd changed their rules similar to this. And if we've been in post for more than 3 years, then that was it. We had to step down and couldn't then be re-elected for another 3 years. But this national governing body have realised the mistake they've made, because it takes quite a long time to embed yourself in these systems and know about councils, rules and regulations, policies and everything else, and to make contacts and network in these areas. And as I say, they've realised they've made this mistake by removing all these people that have volunteered for this period of time and have built up all this knowledge. And they're regretting they've done it. So I'm very much for this vote, because you retain the knowledge that these regional representatives have.
Thank you for that.
One over here, Mike.
Woodland Garden Association. I feel a bit conflicted about this. I can see the pros and cons. The same that I'm agreeing with the previous speaker that the danger is you lose people. At the same time, I think we need to reach out to younger people who've got time on their hands, not just because they're retired, to actually get involved. And I think the diversity issue of staff and representatives need to be looked at, and that's the job for all of us.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to point out that, as I say, we have extended the deputy regional rep election process and searching for people, and all the regional reps would like more deputies, I'm sure. And then from that pool of deputies, hopefully, when somebody's ready to go, they can step up. But it's just not happening in many regions.
Hello, Carol Lincoln from Groovy Allotment Society. Could I just clarify this? If we vote against this amendment to motion 1, do we then get to consider the alternative motion 1, which is to delete the requirement to have a 3-term limit entirely?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's what I needed to know.
Right, so we're now going to vote either for, against, or abstain on the amendment.
Clarity point, so I think I want to just answer that. Sorry, just to make a very clear point of clarity for you. Amendment to motion 1 and motion 1 itself is the same thing. The difference in the amendment that we're going to vote on first is just adding the election process to the motion 1. So they're the same motion. So if you vote against this one and vote for the other one, there is no election process mentioned. And that's why a member came back to us and said, I think you've made a mistake here because there's no election involved. And that's what that amendment is, just to be clear. So you're almost voting for the same one, but we have to obviously do it as an amendment. So the amendment to the first one is about including a voting process. It's no different. So if you don't vote on one and you vote on two, there's never an election in your regions. That's yeah. No, there's no, yeah, no.
After 3 terms.
Yeah.
So, is everybody clear what they're voting for? This is the amendment as it states. If you vote for the amendment, then a regional representative stands every 3 years to be re-elected or not. And if anybody wants to stand against them, they can. Or if they want to step down and somebody step up, that's how it works. But after 3 terms, they will continue to a 4th term if they want to do it for 3 years, or a 5th term. That's what you're voting for. There will be up for re-election every 3 years as they are now. Just as they are now, after 3 terms, we can't stand again. And as that lady said, that's that experience gone. And if there is no one to take the place, there is no one to take the place. That region won't be represented at all. Is there anybody who wants to ask a question with regard to clarification more? Are we all okay with knowing what we're voting for? The lady at the back. I think it's important that we all understand what we're voting for.
Sue Ellis, Legal Allotment Association in Nottinghamshire. Can I just clarify, if we vote against both of them, the status quo
Yes.
continues?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will proceed to the vote with the pads.
Nottinghamshire somewhere.
There's still confusion apparently.
Oh, it is. Told us lots of confusion.
Into the mic, Terry.
Yeah, the position now is in the wrong. I mean, well, the position now is that regional representatives
Can't hear you.
get elected at the region, and they stand for 3 years. They stand for 3 years, and then they seek election again. But they can only do that 3 times. 3 times. So they can only serve for 9 years total if they get elected repeatedly. But at the end of 9 years, they're gone. Gone. What we're trying to do is avoid that. What happened was we put a motion down which removed all the restrictions. That's motion 1. Then it was realised that what we've done with motion 1 was remove any elections by mistake. So we put an amendment in to put elections back in. So motion 1 says no restrictions, get voted in once. You can vote. That one, right? So we've got an amendment in, which is asking to vote on now, and the amendment says 3 years, elected each 3 years, but you can continue for a 4th term or a 5th term if you get elected.
Good.
Right? And someone can always stand against you, and that's press button 1.
Thank you.
So please press your buttons. Just go on now.
The buttons. So we'll give it a go. So Yep, all those in favour, press button 1. All those against, press button 2. And any abstentions, press 0.
Who says what? 2 seconds, sorry.
We'll know if you haven't voted.
Sorry, 2 seconds. Obviously, we're having a little tiny teething problem. We tested it all yesterday and it worked fine. So it's our first time using electronic voting. It will work, I promise you, because we tested it in every corner of the room yesterday and every single keypad. So let's just restart the computer. It could be because we've obviously been running the presentation. So please be patient, just wait 1 more minute and then we'll get it all running again.
Thank you.
Sorry, who were the tellers? Could you stand up?
Yeah. I got money for this. Oh, I know.
Your remote, 8 on your keypad. 8. So 8 will show that all your LED lights are working.
Would everyone press 8 on their keyboard? That will tell us whether the things are working.
Yeah, so your LED light should always, so if everybody presses number 8, it should show all your LED lights work. And they're all coming up now on here as a test, correct?
It's job's easy.
It was yesterday.
She'll have to go back to divisions.
Yeah.
Out of the room into separate rooms.
Oh, here we go.
So you go press 1, 2, or 0.
They're all doing it.
1 for, 2 against, 0 abstain.
There you go. Look, you can see on the screen, Mike. Great. Keep going.
Keypad number 15 needs to still go.
And your keypad is on the back if you haven't known that.
27. At 38.
It says it on the bottom.
41.
Anybody need any help? Had a long pass. You check the numbers.
No, 44.
Do you know who it is? And read those numbers out.
Now we're going to read out the number who needs to vote. It's on the back of the
No,
email.
just 40.
Just 44.
The other ones, unfortunately, are people that haven't.
Oh, I'll go.
Yeah, go on. So you just put abstention, maybe? No, you don't want even. Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
We have 133 for, 12 against, 2 abstentions. So that motion is carried. So then we move to motion 2. Hopefully, that will be. Motion 2, I will now explain. We don't need to vote.
You can move on.
On to motion 2.
Yeah, we're gonna go on to motion two. Just explain it, Mike.
The motion 2 is. Motion 2. Proposed amendment to Rule 1210 to provide more votes to larger associations. At the moment, our voting process, we agreed with the FCA.
No,
We
we
don't
don't.
need to vote on motion 1, we voted for the amendment.
Yeah, sorry, it's froze because you're supposed to vote, so we're just trying to skip past that because there doesn't need to be a vote.
Allow me to explain again? Yeah. We'll have a 5-minute break if that's okay. Oh, that's.
No, we haven't got time.
We'll be back in 5 minutes, please.
I try.
Is that bad? You vote off him and voted. Yeah, but you can't.
Next time.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Um, Turn that one on? Yeah, there we go. Right, good afternoon. What will I use this for? Take that one out of the way.
Thank you.
Right, it'll be better. Now you can see that I didn't put that slide up. They spelled my name wrong. Yeah, they spelled my name wrong. We might have to have that mic, all right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I'll have it in my hand. Right. Yeah, so yeah, they spelled my name wrong. It's the old boy. But it doesn't matter. Same person. Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about growing vegetables on your plot. And just move forward.
Did your other one off? Just unplug it. No.
We'll get rid of it.
Yeah. Let's put it in the bin. All right.
Start again.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so I was going to talk to you a little bit about growing vegetables on the plot and trying to get the best out of your plot. And I do grow on allotment. If any of you follow the magazine, you'll know that the King's plot is my plot. And it all starts with getting the plot in the best possible condition you can. Now, I'm not a no digger. I'm a digger. I'm afraid. I was taught to dig many, many years ago by my father. And then I went to college and they taught me to double dig. And in those days, when you were at college, they didn't have much compost. And you had to learn to double dig using straw. So you knew how to bury it after a while. So you ended up with a lovely plot. But no, I do like to dig the plot every year. I used to take a week's holiday in November and I start my winter digging. And by the end of the week, I can only dig now 2 or 3 hours a day. And by the end of the week, I've usually dug at least 3/4 of the plot. And that's the plot there. Hopefully we're adding organic matter to it. We're clearing the weeds, although I don't grow many weeds. I don't like weeds. And we keep it clean. And I always think if you can dig in the winter, it's far better for you because it will hold some of that moisture you're going to get through the winter months. You'll often get heavy rains, you might get some snow, and that moisture that goes into the soil will help you if we have a spring like we've had this year, a very dry spring, especially where I am in East Anglia. Now, a really dry spring, that moisture is held within the soil, certainly when the roots start to get down and they're there. So, it really does help. And I'm not a great fan of where people start digging in the spring. I see them on our site, and our site's quite heavy soil. You wouldn't think it by looking at mine, because I've added plenty of organic matter to it over the years and dug it in. But if you start digging in the spring, any moisture that was in there is going to be released out. If you're on heavy clay, you'll end up with a lump of concrete after a while, but it's usually followed by some drying winds, so you don't have anything there. But one of those things, this thing working, doesn't it? Real well here. Technology. I'll always be playing with them. Yeah.
Hang on. Back. Talk about you said. Oh, we're moved on, have we? There we go. So yeah, so when I dig in the winter and you've got rough soil, I don't use a rotavator either on my land. I use a long armed chrome. Anybody know what chrome is? Yeah. It's what's called a chrome. It's an Essex Suffolk tool. You might know it as a long cultivator. It's basically a muck fork that's been bent at a right angle, and you put a long handle on it. And it's the most useful tool you can have on an allotment because you pull it through the ground. If you pull it backwards and forwards, it breaks up all the clods that are there. It's a really good tool. You can buy them on the internet, and they'll probably sell you something that's stupid money. But go to your local boot sale. There's usually somebody selling one with a clear shed. They don't know what it is. Fantastic. You know, you can use those. I use it for chroming, fertilizer, and everything on the plot. So you rake that in. And what you're trying to do is get that soil down to a workable tilth. And, you know, then I add some fertilizer to that soil before I plant, whether that be some chicken pellets, it might be some grow more, depending on what I'm doing, a bit of bloodfish and bone, depending on what crop I'm planting, and just rake that in, and then you're ready for sowing some seeds. And if there's some really large stones, they're removed. I don't remove all stones because they help with some drainage. And that's by plot over the years, various different things. You'll notice I like straight edges and cut paths, and I don't grow weeds, as I say, it's all regularly hoed. You know the best time to hoe? When you haven't got any weeds. That is, it's the best time to hoe. 2 years ago, my son now is what, 25? And when he was 7, he used to work on the plot with me. And I wrote an article in the Kitchen Garden magazine years ago that was called Dad and Lad on the plot. And he worked with me, and we used to go up there and he'd sort of do different bits. And when we do watering in the evenings, he'd come up. And when we finished, I got the chrome out and I pulled my footprints out. And he said, Dad, why do you do that every time we go out and water? I said, yeah, but that moves the soil and I can see if any other bug has been on my plot. So that's the way I've done it. But it does help. And like I say, I go through, if I'm walking on the plot or anything, I put a chrome or a push-pull weeder through it. And the time to weed is when you've got no weeds. Because you're not only getting rid of them when they're just below the surface, they're like that. It's no good waiting until you've got weeds up here to hoe, to hoe. It's hard work. You wait till when they're small, they'll shrivel up, they'll die. You can get rid of them. And you keep the plot nice and clean in that way. So, nicely full of produce, nice long rows of runner beans. I like runners. And all what we have on the plot, we eat. If I don't eat it, neighbours have it. If I've got some surplus, it's sold on a little stall outside my door. And I have enough people call there on a Saturday morning and use it. It's like diddly squat, it is, they're queuing up with their cars outside to come and get some fresh produce. But it's a great hobby to have because I come from a growing background. I used to be a grower, and now I work in an office all day, buying seed for you good people to buy. This is my relaxation. When I get home, I go up the allotment. I get up there. I grow things, I trial them, trial the varieties we're going to sell. It's a great way of letting go of any surplus energy and sort of relaxing. Don't only grow for the kitchen, also grow a little bit for the show bed. So some nice big onions and some leeks there that I grow. And we don't only grow veg, we still grow flowers. I grow a lot of cut flowers on the plot.
I like growing cutflower sunflowers and statice and some other cut flowers, and so you can grow those to bring in the beneficial insects. You can also use, the cutting. We always have a great debate at our site. They have a judging every year for the best kept allotment, which I've won 7 times out of the last 8 years. But they say the RHS rules said you've got to have so many points for fruit. Well, I don't grow any fruit. I can't see the point of growing strawberries. I can pick them up just as cheap in Tesco's, really. And I'd rather grow cut flowers and things that I want. So when they say, well, you don't grow the fruit, I said, yeah, but you don't grow any cut flowers. So we sort of even it out a little bit. But usually the judges are took up by how clean the plot is, and hopefully that's we have 3 judgings when we have our best kept allotments. One the end of May, one the end of June, one the end of July. And we don't know when they're coming. So you have to be tidy all the time. And I think they should have 4. They should judge them in the winter when you've got it all cleaned up as well. And don't. But there we go. But it all starts with producing, growing the best varieties that you can. And King Seeds are very proud to be the National Allotment Society's approved seed supplier. And we offer one of the widest ranges of flowers and vegetable seeds that you can get. And you have your own dedicated catalogue, all at competitive prices. So they are all at a good price, and they're about 40% less than if you were buying them as a regular mail order customer. And the thing that I always say is you should encourage your members to buy the seeds from Kings, because you gain from it. Whether it be the commission for the whole society or the commissions for your own society. So there's a benefit for you as well as for us. And we have a great policy at ours. We're always looking for quality seeds, and we're looking to give an excellent value and outstanding garden, outstanding customer service and garden advice, really. So, which we are always looking to do that for you. And all seed is germinated in our own seed laboratories. I'm sure some of you came and visited a few years ago, and you'll have seen the different laboratories that we do. We've got a qualified seed analyst. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have 2 qualified seed analysts, because we've just trained another girl, Rosie, to take on as an analyst as well, in preparation from when the one that we've got retires. So we're looking ahead already. It's a big investment for the company. We've done one through training, you're looking around 5 or 6 grand, put them actually through the training. So then that way that you're sure that the seed grows to how we want it. And you get exactly the same seed in your packs as if you're buying it from a commercial grower. We sell seed to commercial growers, we sell seed to hobby gardeners, and it's exactly the same seed. But all seeds are tested for the germination, they're bigger, and we don't only look at the top growth, we look at the roots. So that's why, you can see on the bench there on the corner, they've pulled them out, they put them on a little section, they've separated out the different leaf growth and the different root growth to check them out. Because if you're doing peas and beans, they have to have a certain amount of leaf growth in comparison to the root growth to actually pass that test. So they're all tested different ways. Some people usually come into the lab and say your seedlings are very long. Well, they are, but we have to leave them that bit longer just so we can have a look at them. Things like brassicas are done on paper. So again, so you can look at the top growth, you can look at the actual root growth as well. And the most important thing that you have whenever you buy a packet of our seed is, please look after the lot number. So the lot number is printed on the inside on that little foil. There's a lot number on there. Or if you've got a P&B packet, it's printed on top of the flag. So don't throw away that little foil and don't tear off the flap and chuck that bit in the bin. Because usually someone rings us up and they say, oh, not a problem. So yeah, you've got a lot number. No, I threw that bit away, but I've got the coloured packet. Well, that bit's all right, but we want the lot number because that has full traceability of that seed all the way through its life. So that's the main thing, you know, that we want, because if you ring me up, I can tell you up to the last day that seed was tested, what the germination result was. And if we did have a problem with it, we would tell you, you know, we'd honestly tell you that there was a problem. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, it isn't the seed, it's you, the problem. Because we encourage you to actually, you know, speak to us, because, you know, it could be a batch issue, it could be a problem, but every lot of seed has its own different batch number. So take anything away from today, please get hold of that lot number. Now, this will probably upset a few people, but we'll talk about F1 hybrids against open pollinated. Yeah. The thing with F1 hybrids is you're going to get a better vigor out of them, higher germination usually, improved pest and disease resistance, outstanding performance, and they are bred for flavour, although they are a hybrid, and new breeding offers better choice of varieties. There's very little breeding done nowadays in open pollinated varieties. Obviously, with open pollinated, you do get some of your heirlooms and your old favourites. And there's limited choice now with some of the open pollinators because there is no new breeding being done except for things like lettuces and peas and beans. Obviously, they're being done in it. But then some people say, well, I like open pollinated, I can save my own seed. Thank you, you're doing me out of a job. There is, if you save your own, there's a risk of cross-pollination. You know, if you've got your favourite runner bean growing on your plot and your neighbour has got a different one, they're going to cross-pollinate. So what you had is not going to keep coming through to type. But people say about heirlooms, and, you know, there are companies out there now, you know, that specialise in heirloom vegetables, and they're getting very trendy. So we thought, well, we'd have a look at this and look at the King's catalogue. So from next year, there will be a symbol in the catalogue for all the varieties that are heirlooms. And we already offer 126 different heirloom varieties. So an heirloom, a true heirloom, some people class them as heirlooms, but they're not really, they're just open pollinated. But a true heirloom that's over 50 odd years old, you know, we have 126 varieties in there. But my argument with hybrids against an heirloom, if any of you grow Brussels sprouts, why would you grow Long Island Brussels sprout that was bred in 1820, I think, it was bred, and you've got that variety, it's got, you know, no disease resistance. It's not going to produce you a crop like if you're growing an F1 hybrid Brussels sprout. If you grew the two side by side, you'd never grow Long Island again. The only reason people buy it is they like open pollinated. They like it's got 300 seeds in a packet. They want 300 Brussels sprouts. Whereas a hybrid will probably have you 25 or 30. Well, I grow 12, I think I grow 12 plants of an early Brussels sprout and 12 of a late. And that keeps me, all my immediate family, my brothers, my sisters, my sister-in-laws, everybody in sprouts for the rest of the year. So why do you need 300? But that's why people, you know, a lot of people like open pollinate, because there's that, they think they're getting more seed, but it's the choice of variety really. The exception is because there isn't a hybrid, they don't breed hybrids in those. So lettuce, peas, beans, they don't breed hybrids in them. They've never bred a hybrid lettuce. So all breeding that's done on that is, say for instance, you were doing lettuces, the only thing they're breeding into that is that it's got better mildew resistance or anything like that. They're not actually breeding it for, you know, anything other than that. It might be that it's got aphid resistance. So they're doing some breeding, but it's not actually a hybrid. They're just taking different parents and doing it that way. So like I say, it is the choice that you have. And we'll start with a few. So beetroot red shine. Now, this is a reasonably new variety. you know, I'm sure most people in here grow things like Old Hardy and everything. Well, if you grow Red Shine, it's a monogerm variety. So where most beetroot are a cluster of seed, when you get them, you get 2 or 3 seeds come out each one. This will only produce you a single seedling out of each seed. So if you wanted to space sow it, then that's ideal because, you know, then you're not having to do all the thinning and spacing going along. But it has a great high tolerance to bolting as well. So, you know, you've got good for that, nice sweet flavour as well. You know, tasty, you can use it as a baby beetroot, or you can wait until it's mature. So it's just an improvement on normal beetroot. You know, we do other hybrids as well, but, you know, the one I've got in the truck here is Avlo. Well, that was sown very early in a module that was sowed under glass. Sow those in end of February, early March under glass in module, and then planted those out, and now I'm pulling them on the plot. So you can get them nice and early, but that's a hybrid. You struggle to do that with Boltard. And of course, being Boltardy being over-pollinated, and it's an old heirloom variety, really, it's going to be less maintained than it would if you had grown a hybrid. Because the price of Boltardy to me probably hasn't changed for the last 3 or 4 years. You know, when I'm buying in the seed, it's because it's an open pollinated variety, and it's only ever sold to the hobby market. If you're a commercial grower, you grow a hybrid one, and they work very, very well on your own plot. Now that's a new introduction 2 years ago, I think it was. We all grow sprout and broccoli, and normally sprout and broccoli, you have it so it's coming in early in the spring. Well, this one, if you sowed that in May, June, you're cropping this in September, October. So it's extending the season. So you're getting, my wife loves sprout and broccoli, so I grow a lot of this anyway. You can use it like to fill up a gap where you've had something early. So you can plant it there. And it's not only a purple broccoli, it's got a purple stem to it as well. So it holds its colour well, produces lots of nice side shoots. This last year, I was picking that still in the first week of November because it was a mild autumn. I was still picking side shoots off of it. And if you want traditional sprout and broccolis, well then grow an early and a late. Again, a lot of people would probably grow early purple, which is an open pollinated variety, because they get 500 seeds in a packet. Why do you put more 500? But they do. But if you grow Rudolph, which is an early, and you grow Cardinal, which is a late, I grow 4 plants of each, and that keeps me and the wife in sprout and broccoli all the way through the spring. Because, you know, you're getting a lot of separate spears off of those, so you don't need to grow a lot because they're heavy producers. And by growing 2, it just extends the season. And that's an old heirloom. Broccoli 9-star. Who this morning was talking about perennial vegetables. Now, broccoli 9-star, we maintain. We had this many, many years ago in the catalogue. It went out of favour because nobody wanted white sprout and broccoli. Then some chef on the TV puts white sprout and broccoli on the telly. Everybody wanted it. So we had to reintroduce it. And we kept some seed back in our seed bank in the freezer. And we've had it in there a number of years. We bought it out. It's still got a 90% germination. It's probably been in the freezer for over 20 years. And so we then produced this crop from it, and now we offer that back in the catalogue. So if you grow this, you could keep it on your plot for up to 3 years. You know, you pick it in the spring, the plants will look a bit shabby, you clean them up, and then the following year it will start producing again. But it is a true perennial sprout and broccoli, but a white sprout and broccoli. It grows about an metre tall. Now, I've had a couple of people today ask me about broad beans. You know, they want to sow them and try and sow them later. Now, this broad bean is
a variety that's been around for a few years, and we were asked by a member 2 years ago, why didn't we offer it? So I hunted it down. I tried to find who was producing it. It's an Italian variety, but it grows very well in the UK. And it's been bred so you could sow that through the summer months, so you can crop it in September when you don't normally have broad beans. And you can sow it in the autumn, or even, like you would normally your aquadols, you can sow it then in October, November, and crop it again in the spring. So it's a dual purpose variety. But, so you can now have broad beans that you can have later in the year, because the older varieties of broad beans that are out there, if you tried it with some of them, they don't like the heat. They get a lot of rust, where this one, will put up with the heat and you'll still get a good crop in the September time. Cabbage Caraflex. Now, that's been around for a number of years. Now, I've done an experiment this year with this, because you can grow a lot of vegetables sowing them in October in a cold greenhouse. So you sow them in October, you then raise the plants in the cold greenhouse, and then pop them on around Christmas time, and then plant them out on your plot in March. And you can have cabbages early. Now, it's not the best cabbage, but I brought it to show you the principle. So I've been cutting Caraflex, well, since early April. That's been ready. So you can cut it a bit younger than that, but that was the last one on the plot, and I left it there just to show you that you can actually get a cabbage right early now, and that will taste far better than if you're growing a spring cabbage, the old Wheeler's Imperial or April that you would sow in August. It sits on the plot all the way from August through to April and take all the goodness out of the soil, and it won't taste as good as that. So you can grow a quick, sweet cabbage, and that's what I say, Caraflex. But you can then sow it again. I sow that again in March, and they're now just beginning to point up. And I reckon in about 2 to 3 weeks I'll be cutting the next lot. So you've got a dual purpose again. You can get more on one sowing out of it. And this one's really worth growing. Cauliflower Barcelona. Again, sown in October. I cut that on Friday morning. Not bad cauliflower. The two guys from the NBS, staying here? No? Yeah, he's at the back. He said, he said, it's going over. I said, we're with this early in the year. What do you expect for a cauliflower? We're not judging it on the show bench. It's I think you'd all be pleased to have that cauliflower to cut and have that. So again, sown in a cold greenhouse in October, and then plant it out in March, and you can be cutting those cauliflowers, right now. I'm cutting it now, and I've been cut it last week. I'll be able to cut some more this week, and I reckon my last cut will be next week. So although it's a hybrid, you're not getting them all together. You can have them spread over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks. And they're excellent flavour, lovely. And that's another one you can do. That's Calabrese Iron Man. Again, sown in October, and you can be cutting it now. So it's just a way of, if you're sowing it that early and planting on your plot in March, I'm planting a bit, probably about twice the size of that table set up there. 3 varieties, 12 of each. And then by the time that's finished, that can be cleared, and I can put another crop on that same piece of ground. You'll get more out of that ground rather than just waiting and waiting until you're going to get something and carry them along later on. And if you want something different in Calabrese, you could grow this one. That's Herza. We used to do a variety called Stemia, and Stemia is finished, but this is its sister line. And the beauty of Herza is, which I've also got here, is it grows, so you've got like individual florets. So you cut one head to start with, and then you get lots of long side shoots. It's a bit like tender stem broccoli that you can pay a fortune for in the supermarket. So you can grow that in your own garden. Like I say, I sowed this this year, the last week of February, and I'm now just starting to cut it. So nice and quick, and that'll keep going right through from September if you keep cutting it. Get lots and lots of little spears on it. So you're getting good value for money out of a very little space. And biggest plague of a lot of people is clubroot. So we've now got a lot of clubroot resistant brassicas. So you've got Brussels sprout Christmas, Savoy cabbage Gordessa, Calabrese Monclano, cauliflower Zaragoza, also good for exhibition, cabbage Killer Store, cauliflower Clapton, cabbage Ladero, and we've even got a Chinese cabbage now, Genki, which have all got good clubroot resistance to them. So you can grow those, have clubroot resistant brassicas on your plot. Because if you've got clubroot and you try to grow brassicas, it's a nightmare. The only time if you've had clubroot and you grow one of these, they've got resistance. If you've got a very wet year, you can still get a mild amount of clubroot because the clubroot gene that will be in the soil travels in the water course through, so you might get a little bit. But otherwise, it had good resistance. And people talk about hybrids. I think the first clubroot resistant variety they bred, they worked on it for over 10 years before they actually introduced it to get it to have some resistance. So, you know, you've got to do the breeding work, hence you might only get 15 seeds of a variety in a packet because it's cost a lot to actually do the breeding to bring it to the market. That's a new one, Savoy cabbage serpentine. So you can sow that in March, April, and you'll have that ready for July to September. So you can actually have a summer Savoy if you want a summer Savoy. Some people like Savoy cabbage flavours and textures more than they do a traditional cabbage. So hence there's a summer Savoy now. And again, it's got good disease resistance. You can eat it raw in a salad if you wished, or in a stir fry nowadays. So now got a summer to early autumn Savoy. That we introduced a couple of years ago. That was a real breeding breakthrough, the first orange Romanesco. Again, it's a variety that's worth growing because it holds its flavour. So if you're going to do a cauliflower cheese, it'll keep nice and orange. Instead of sort of looking on a wishy-washy sort of colour. But it's got a nice nutty flavour to it. It really has. It matures quite late, so if you sow that in mid-May, it matures around September, November. But you get a good sized head on it. Everybody likes a curly kale. Most people say, "What's your shortest one?" We've got on the windy sides. That's your shortest one, Eden. And it produces lots and lots of curly kales out of it. And they're always good kales it's what they used to call the hungry gap veg because it fills that gap when you've got nothing else much to harvest off the plot in the spring, and that keeps on going. It's got good winter hardiness to it, so you can have a nice carrots. Now, that's been around for a number of years. Carrot flyaway. Good old carrot fly. You know, that plagues everybody. And people say, oh, this was a gimmick when it came out, carrot flyaway, because they grow this on its own and they still get carrot fly. They found, when they done all the trial years ago, that if you grew another variety of carrots beside it, almost as a sacrificial crop, the carrot fly went for the other variety and left this alone. There's something within the makeup of it in its breeding that carrot fly don't like the taste of. It's a lovely sweet carrot, don't get me wrong, but they didn't like it. But if you got it on its own and they've got nothing else to go for, they'll eat carrot fly.
flyaway. But that's an early one, and there's resistor fly, which comes a bit later on. But you know, so if you want to grow a variety of carrots that has got some fly resistance, you can grow this, but grow another one with it. But most people now grow carrots under enviromesh. They're my carrots. See, carrot seed does germinate. Most people say, oh, I can't get carrots, they get patchy. Now I'm on heavy land. Now, if you look at the picture there, you'll see I take out a shallow drill and fill it full of seed sown compost and sow my carrots into that on the plot. And then they just grow through that into my soil, and I have lovely carrots that way. Because otherwise, if you're trying to sow them on my soil, particularly, which is quite heavy, they'll cap and everything else. They really do cap. And if you're sowing them this way or any other way with small seeds, always draw out your drill and water the drill first before you actually sow them. At times you see people draw out a drill, sow the seed, draw a drill, and they keep putting water and water over the top. And then that doesn't come through because they've capped the soil on the top. So what you need to do is if you put the water in the bottom of the drill, cover them with dry soil or dry compost. This can be any seeds, small ones. The moisture is trapped where you want it. And if it's trapped where you want it, the seeds will take that moisture. If you keep putting water over the top, like I say, it will actually cap it. And people say, well, don't cap when it rains. No, but that's coming down steady, you know. It's not really heavy like you are out of a can, even with a rose. But I grow mine under little tents of enviromesh nowadays. Those same carrots now the foliage is up to the top of the enviromesh at home. That was a picture I took earlier on. And this is carrot Eskimo. And Eskimo is probably the best carrot you can grow, although its name suggests it can only be grown to overwinter. You can grow it all the way through the season. And I always grow this because it's got a good orange in the colour. Really good orange in the colour. It doesn't get that little green bit that you sometimes get. It's orange, lovely flavour. And the other great thing with Eskimo is if you go home after this weekend and you sow some carrots now, you'll have carrots ready for Christmas. And if you don't eat them all at Christmas, they can keep in the ground right through till March time with no protection whatsoever, and you'll still be able to eat those carrots. They've got good frost protection, so, you know, good strong tops on them. But that's one of my favourites is carrot Eskimo. Courgettes, been around a number of years. Courgette Defender. It was the first courgette that was brought out which had any really disease resistance, hence they called it Defender. So it's got mosaic virus resistance. Still a good variety. Heavy cropper, nice good flavour to it as well. Not too spiny, the leaves, which is good when you go into courgettes and picking those. And if you want a different one, a very sure thing. Now, sure thing is a parthenocarpic courgette. So, in other words, it's self-fertile. So if you've got a year where it's very cold early on in the season, you haven't got many males and female flowers to pollinate it, or if you want to do an early crop undercover in a polytunnel, you can grow this because it's partially self-fertile, so it will crop for you, which is an answer to many people's prayers. Indoor cucumbers. If you want to grow indoor ones, for a long traditional sort of cucumber, I would grow Carmen. But it's got some mildew resistance. Off a single plant, you can get between 50 and 100 fruits off of a plant if you grow it well. It's got, you know, it's got really good quality cucumber on there. The thing with when you're growing cucumbers, whatever variety you grow, I bet most people when they actually feed their cucumbers, they feed them with tomato food. Don't feed them with tomato food, feed them with dry blood. dried blood is high nitrogen. And cucumbers need nitrogen to keep them going. Otherwise, they start to go yellow and finish very, very early in the season. So if you grow them cucumbers, give them dried blood, and that way they keep on going, that little bit extra. You can give them a feed with tomato food as you're doing with tomatoes, but always feed them once a week, just a teaspoon. Keep it away from the stem and just water it around. And once you put the teaspoon of dried blood on the soil. If you want a small one, you can grow party time. These are what they call snacking cucumbers. There you go. That's party time. I'm just picking that. And those hang usually in 2 per leaf node. So you're getting a good size, good crop off of a plant with those. And they're great if there's only a couple of you, because you can eat those in one night and then you go and get another one the next day. So you only got a small amount of cucumbers. So, but we do loads of different cucumber varieties, but they're 2 that I think, if you were short of space, grow party time for a little one, or for a bigger time. And if you only can grow outdoors, grow Purpless Tasty Green. Been around for a number of years, Purpless has. Originally bred in America, that variety, but it's got small spines on it. You can grow it on the ground, so it all goes all over the place. I grow mine in large containers outside on the patio, and I train them up sticks, and then you get lovely long cucumbers hang down. And it's called Purpless because it won't repeat on you. Hence its name. You know, it's got no repeat to it. It's not bitter. Some people with these type of cucumbers, these ridge cues, they peel them before they actually eat them because they don't like the roughness of the skin, but it's entirely up to you. Climbing beans, now that's Cobra, probably the best climbing French bean on the market. A lot of people love Blue Lake. If you grew Blue Lake against Cobra, you'd never grow Blue Lake again. Purely because with Cobra, you'll be picking beans from them when they're a foot on the ground up until when the plants are 6 foot on the ground, off the ground. You know, they really are producing well, loads and loads of beans. And you can pick them from when they're very, very young, right up to when the beans are fully mature and getting quite thick, and they're still tasty. Got purple flowers, it's quite decorative as well, but I consider that the best climbing French bean out there. And for a dwarf, there's no better than Stanley. That's my number one now. I've trialled loads of French beans over time, but that will produce and produce and produce. They sit quite nice high on the plant. The plants are quite tall, grows around about 15, 18 inches high for a dwarf bean. It is quite tall, but you often find they'll stop, and if you give them a really good soaking for a few weeks, they'll start to produce flower again and give you another crop. So it's like a small crop, but they will keep going and give you another one. So got good disease resistance as well. It's a commercial variety. It's the number one selling commercial variety, purely because of the yield it gives. But there's no reason why you shouldn't grow it in your own garden. Runner beans have been developed over the years. Now these 2 are Moonlight and Firestorm. So Moonlight is white flowered, Firestorm is red flowered. And the reason you want to grow these, they're partially self-pollinating. So they've got French bean breeding crossed into a runner bean. So you've got the benefit of a French bean, which is self-fertile, into a runner bean. They're stringless, full of flavour. And if you're going to grow runner beans late, so if you're doing the sowing in the next few weeks to have a late crop, grow a white flowered one. Because the white flowered ones put up with the heat better than a red flowered variety. So always grow a white one late. That's why most runner beans you buy from the supermarket that's been imported from Kenya are all white flowered. They're all white flowered varieties. But yeah, don't buy that. But that breeding was done a few years ago, and it really was a breakthrough because, you know, people had runner beans and the
flowers get dropped in good, very hot weather, couldn't get a good bean set. With these, you get a good set because, you know, they have got this partial self-pollination with them. And that's a traditional run of beans. So you've probably all got things like Streamline, Prize Winner, all of those. Well, this is a traditional variety, but it's called Benchmaster. I like it because it produces good long beans, around about 40 centimetres, 16 inches long. Hangs in clusters, and you get a lot off of a row, People always come along to my plot and they say, "Oh, you've got a lot of flour. How do you get so many beans? Mine are all going short. They're stumpy." I said, "Yeah, well, have you looked at my arms?" They go, "No." So they're fairly long. We've got a run of beans. I grow about a 20-foot row, and I'll put at least 20 gallons of water on that every other night, carried by can. So they have a lot of water. You've got to put water on runners. If you don't put water on runners, you're not going to have any run beans. You know, they do like water. And you find people where they just grow them and they just give them a splash. But, you know, you've got to give a lot of water to runner beans. And we can only put it on with a can on our side. Luckily, we've got water. But we carry it with cans, hence my arms are quite long. Leak below zero was introduced a few years ago, and it's called below zero because it's very frost tolerant, and it's got a little bit of rust resistance. It's not totally rust resistance, but it's got a little bit of rust resistance. There isn't a totally rust resistant leek out there yet. They haven't bred one. They can't breed one at the moment for some reason, but that is a good variety because it stands a long time. So if you only want to grow one, you can harvest it from November right through till February. It's hard as nails, and you'll get a good crop off of that. Lettuce, that's I was hoping to bring you one of these. My first row is just starting to go over. Lettuce Annalena, it's my favourite. It's a butterhead. You can pick it from when it's quite young, only just the heart, just quite soft and squishy, right up to when it's got a really solid heart. Lovely flavour. Keeps excellent in the fridge. It really does clean. You can keep that in the fridge for 2 to 3 weeks. And it really does hold its long period. I'm not allowed to grow any other lettuce. That's my wife's favourite. She says, "I don't want any other lettuces, just grow me Annalena." I said, "All right, okay." But I do like it. That's because it produces so well. I sow lettuces into a pot every 2 weeks. So I grow just a few plants every 2 weeks, sow them in a pot, prick them out in trays, and then as you get a gap, I fill up the gaps with lettuces to keep the crop going. And if you're sowing lettuces when the weather is hot, a little tip, put the packet of seed in the fridge the night before you're going to sow it. It cools the seed down, and then sow your seeds and the germination will be fine. If you sow lettuces and the temperatures are above 20 degrees, the seeds go into a dormantation period. So they sit there dormant until it cools down. But by chilling the seed down before you sow it, it sort of overcomes that, and then they come through and you get the germination okay. All right. These two varieties I spotted on a trial in the UK that were bred from Spain, and these are both like Oz type. So you've got a little red, little gem on the far side, which is a Acharito, and you've got Montreal, which is a traditional romaine. And it was the hottest summer we'd had in 22, if you remember back, very hot. They didn't care. Normally, if you'd have grown this sort of lettuce, they'd have bolted by then. They stood there, didn't worry about the temperatures whatsoever. So again, it's picking up on varieties that will put up with the conditions that we're tending to get now, warmer summers, etc. So, that's where you got to go with it. Onion Prospero, this is taking over from Santero that we used to offer. It's a sister line that dropped Santero. This is an improvement. And again, it's downy mildew resistant. If any of you grow onions and you get downy mildew on the plot, where you get that horrible grey goes down the sides of the leaves and they all collapse, you'd want to grow a downy mildew resistant one. And this variety has really good quality bulbs. They keep for a long time. I've still got some in the shed now that I'm harvesting, you know, usually in the kitchen. They've kept all that time from last year when I harvested them. So stores really, really well. Salad onions. So you could grow Gerda, which is a variety that you can use all the year round. So you can sow that early, and you could sow it as an autumn overwintering spring onion. So it's a good variety for that. So you can sow all the year round, very, very versatile. Nice, strong, erect leaves on it, and a sort of a mild oniony flavour. My favourite is that Isocura. That won't bulb. Keeps like that all the time, just gets bigger and bigger. Eventually it looks like a mini leek. Quite mild flavoured, but very, very good if you want to grow a spring onion that doesn't bulb. If you grow white Lisbon, they tend to bulb after a while, don't they? That's a pistillosum type, which keeps that nice thin spring onion. And it does look just like a mini leek. And that's how I grow a lot of my spring onions. I sow them in 2 seeds in a little cell tray. And then I plant those out just as the cluster. And then you can lift the whole cluster in one go and you've got enough for a meal. So it's the way I grow all my spring onions nowadays. Hybrid parsnips. We get more questions about parsnips than we do anything else. Parsnips don't germinate. I can't get them to grow. I sowed mine in February. Why? Because it said it on the packet. Yeah, but we have to deal with places from Cornwall right up to Scotland. Grow a hybrid one. You can sow them a lot later and still get a good parsnip. If you grow hybrid parsnips, you'd never grow an open pollinated variety like Tender and True or Imperial Crown again, because they're hybrids, they got bigger, and like I say, they can actually produce a lot quicker. So even if you sowed those in May, you still have a parsnip ready for Christmas. A really good parsnip. And that's, you can see mine just coming up there. And you'll say, well, there's a lot of seeds there. Well, yeah, but if you're sowing them into a station, sow 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or whatever there is there, and then just thin them out. You get 200 seeds in a packet. Who wants 200 parsnips? You know, most of you'd be lucky if you got 6. You know, you say, oh, I've got 6. Yeah, but, you know, grow your parsnips like that and then thin them out, and then you can have your, you know, a good parsnip in one station. One thing you can do, don't leave them too long before you thin them, because you don't want to disturb the one you want left. So just thin those out nice and easy. But you've got Gladiator, which was the first canker-resistant parsnip that was out there. And then you've got Pegasus that's come recently in the game, got good canker resistance. But if you only want a slightly smaller parsnip, Pegasus is ideal for that because it doesn't grow quite so big and bulky on the shoulders as Gladiator. Heat terrain, we had some of this outside, so if any of you got a packet of that, that's ideal if you want to sow it now. You sow that now, you'll be picking heat terrain towards September, November time. Very late in the season, you can sow that. But good powdery mildew resistance, again, it's been bred so it's got powdery mildew resistance, but downy mildew resistance. Score an 8 out of 10 for downy mildew is excellent for peas. So it will produce you a really good crop, and it often hangs in pairs on the actual vine again, so you're getting a lot of peas off of a small area. An excellent flavour. I've just finished harvesting my Douce Provence, the last of them here, which I sowed in end of February in modules and planted out. I've just finished harvesting those, and my Hearst Green Shaft are now in full flower on the plot. And then I'll follow that with the sowing of terrain. So
My children who are left home now are glad Dad loves peas. When peas are on, we have peas with every meal. We just finished Douce Provence, and I'll be glad when the old Earth Green chart comes along. Peppers, lots of things. Sweet peppers, that's a sweet pepper mix that we do. All made up of individual name varieties there. So you've got Bendigo, Delirio, Fiesta, Mavras. You can buy them all as individuals, but we do a nice coloured mix. And of course, if you don't want the blocky ones, we do pointed ones like Agus and Maramba as well. But very popular now, people growing their own sweet peppers. Got to start early though. You need a heated propagator, and you don't want to be sowing later than February if you're growing your own peppers, because they need a long growing season and they need some warmth to get going. Now, how many of you grow radish French breakfast? Yeah, a lot of you. Lovely radish. That'll be the crunchy king. You can harvest that radish from when it's tiny up to the size of a golf ball, and it still won't be pithy inside. Really big radishes that stands on your plot for a long, long time. Peter, who works with me, he's been with King since he was 15, I think. He's retiring this year, he's 78. He reckons this is the most important bit of breeding that's come around in all the years he's been in the seed trade. He said there isn't a radish like it because it stands so long. You know, you've got that radish that's so big. And I had sowed it in between my parsnips. I always sow a few radishes in between parsnips as a marker on the row. And I had it under Enviromesh just to stop the crows getting to the parsnip seed. And I had some superb radishes, like I say, and I was harvesting them up until they were sort of that size. So you were getting one radish and you were slicing it up in your salad rather than having 3 or 4. And they're not too hot either. They're lovely, lovely flavour. Spinach, Monterey. Again, the variety's got some mildew resistance. Spinaches have changed a lot over the years. A lot of the new spinaches they're bringing out, they're not even naming now. They're just giving them a number, purely because they're changing them all the time, because they're all judged against how mildew resistant they are, and there's new races of mildew coming out. So they sort of won't name them, because as soon as they've named it, that's obsolete, because there's another race that they've got to breed to. So, but Monterey is very, very good. And it's sort of one that you can sow both warmer or colder months without it bulging. So you've got a good spinach that way. Sweet corn, I always grow an early one and I grow a late one. So you've got early bird and you've got gold crest. Both of them are super sweet type, so very good flavoured. Most of them, if you get 2 cobs, you're doing well on a plant. You usually get 1 really good cob and 1 slightly smaller on them. All both very, very sweet. And both grow a similar sort of height. So I sow them at the same time, and that way it just extends the season a little bit. So your early bird you'll be picking first. Your gold crest you'll get 2 weeks after you started early bird. And then if you want a really late one, that's one we're bringing out next year called Tyson. Sure, it'll be a knockout. Tyson. Yeah. But that's quite tall, grows about 2 meters tall. But it is a late maturing sweet corn, so you can extend the season further if you want to. And really large cobs. You know, you're getting 22 rows of kernels on a cob, so really nice. It's one of my favourite things when you go along to trials and you have to do taste tests on sweet corn. There's nothing nicer than picking a fresh sweet corn, peeling it back and eating it straight off the plant. Lovely. Squashes. So most people grow butternuts, and a lot of people will grow the old variety called Waltham butternut, which was an American variety, and you need a good summer for it to really ripen up. So Butternut Hunter was a British bred variety. So it colours up quick. So you get a nice harvest off of that. Nice and mature, good sized fruits. And probably the most popular other type of squash nowadays is Crown Prince. A lot of people grow Crown Prince. It stands a long while. And you can see that furthest picture. Well, that was taken 7 months after it was harvested, and that was still good to eat. Stored in a cool garage. Stores for a long, long time. You just cut a chunk out, cook that this fruit. It stores a really long while and good flavour. And if you went back probably 50 to 100 years ago, and you looked at our catalogue, you wouldn't hardly see a pumpkin or a squash in it. Nowadays, it's really grown in popularity because we sell commercial as well, pumpkin patches and everything else everywhere. And for the commercial sector, we sell over 90 different varieties of pumpkin and winter squash. Yeah, so it is so popular. Now we just move on to tomatoes to finish up with. Toddler we introduced a few years ago, and we believe this is going to be like the hybrid gardener's delight. I was chatting to a lady earlier and she said she wasn't that keen on the flavour. I personally like it. It is good flavour. Crops like mad. The main benefit of it is it's got blight resistance. So if you can grow a tomato outside with blight resistance on your allotment, then Toddler fits the bill. It's a sort of a large cherry type tomato. Very good flavour in my opinion. Nice long trusses. You can grow it under glass as well, but it's mainly for its blight resistance. That's another one to grow outside. Cocktail Crush, again, blight resistant. We used to do a variety called Mountain Magic. Unfortunately, Mountain Magic has disappeared, purely because the breeder stopped breeding off the variety. A lot of tomatoes are bred abroad, and he was in Holland, and he didn't want to go through all the hassle of getting things into the UK. So, and he had a problem with one crop, so he decided he'd stop the breed. Mountain Magic disappeared, and that was a fantastic blight-resistant tomato. It's a shame, really, but this fits the bill. Slightly large, sort of got that Elsie Craig type flavour, the old-fashioned flavour of an Elsie Craig tomato, but blight-resistant again. And if you want something a bit bigger, you've got Buffalo Sun and you've got Buffalo Pink, both blight-resistant, but a beefsteak type that you could grow outside. Or you can grow them under glass as well if you wanted. So, Buffalo Sun, Buffalo Pink, so both blight resistant. Has got another one, a red one called Buffalo Steak, but that hasn't got the blight resistance, but it's good tomato if you want to grow inside. And Nagina, we can't get Roma now, the old-fashioned variety Roma. Again, can't get it into the UK anymore because of the restriction of bringing in tomatoes from abroad. So this is a hybrid Roma type called Nagina. So it's got added benefits because it's got some blight resistance as well. Good for growing under cover, but still got that same Roma flavour if you wanted it for your pasta sauces and that sort of thing. And we'll finish up, I think this is the last one, with some turnips. So Sweet Bell is a sweet turnip that you grow as a salad turnip. You could bite this and eat it like an apple. Lovely flavour. Really good turnip. Holds well, good size roots. And then they brought out a sister line to it, it's called Tokyo Club. And this is sort of getting a bit of interest from some of the people who want to grow for exhibition as well, because it's so uniform. And it's a nice, smooth, white skin, but got club root resistance, which is unusual for a turnip. So again, something that's a little bit different there. Thank you for listening, and I'll take any questions you like.
We've got it.
Thank you, Andrew. You did mention the role of green manure on your plot. Do you?
I don't. Purely because, the only reason I don't use green manure is because a lot of us use sow normally through the summer months. So you sow it summer, stroke early autumn. I don't because I haven't got that much spare space. I keep it mostly full. And so I don't use it that much. And I usually dig in my own compost or other things like that as well. I don't use green manure. People do, a lot of people like using it, particularly you can't get access to normal manure or composts.
But just a quickie, your comment about Bowie. I always quote the one that I learned in Gardener's Quest time 10 years ago from Fred Lewis, who says, if you hoe before you never need to hoe, you will never need to hoe.
Exactly. That's the time to hoe. Yeah. One thing I will say is, who this morning he mentioned about tomato green zebra. Yeah. He said, have any of you ever had it? Well, you can next year because that's a new variety that's going in the catalogue. We hadn't conferred, he just happened to mention it. But it reminded me that we are actually putting it back in the catalogue this year. Yes.
I have a comment about seed packets, which really infuriate me. If you buy them from the catalogue, you get those seed packets with a little slot, which I'm assuming is the women bags. Well, if you cut it off at the top so you can get the seeds out, you lose all the details from sowing times. And if you cut it off at the bottom, it all falls out the bottom of the packet. So could we have, I don't know if anyone else has this problem, could we just have packets without the little slot in them?
Yeah, but the ones on the slot, so they hang on the rack.
Yeah, but when you're sending them directly, they're not.
Yeah, we can't print 2 packets.
But you you just have to cut it off.
Yeah.
And somehow I've talked to other seed companies that, oh, we have to do it like that, but we're the customers.
Yeah. It's been like it for years. But why can't you open the bottom? You've got a flat sealed only with a little bit of glue. You only got to flip it open and it'll come open.
Well, then you have to keep all your seed packets upside down.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
Any more for any more?
One here. One more and we'll finish then, I think. Oh.
On the question really, there's a wonderful list of your recommendations. Is that list of recommendations available?
It will be.
It will be on they've recorded it. So yeah, it will be.
So we could, write it all down.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have that hand on to our members to say these are recommendations.
Yeah.
Not the whole detail, but just the F1s that you put together.
Yep, there'll be a link on the website, apparently. So.
This is the last one, if that's okay. This one over here.
I think I know the answer. You have a problem with red cabbage?
Yes, I do grow red cabbage, yeah, now and again. Yeah, I grow red cap. I was growing it. Yeah. I do grow red cabbage. It's like everything else. You only need a few, don't you? You don't need many. But red cap you can grow on a close spacing, so that's quite good for that.
Just one quick one. We distribute the catalogue amongst our plot holders. And where we are in the east end of Birmingham, the majority of plot holders are not really origin. And the comment that always comes back is, we don't need to order anything because they've not got in the catalogue what we want to grow.
Right.
Are things interested in what other people want to grow other than?
But if you find out some details what they want to grow, we can look at it. I mean, we do a range of oriental vegetables within the catalogue, but it depends what they want to grow, really. Some of the things that they want to grow, you'd have a job getting the seed to bring in anyway. That's the problem.
Some people smuggle in seeds from.
Well, that's the trouble, yeah. Yeah, that is the problem. It's we can only offer what we can legally bring into the countries.
We've done the odd show, and we'll ask these plot holders what do they want to show in the shows.
Yeah,
that's different to either cabbages, leeks, parsnips, or
yeah.
whatever. And when that feedback comes back to us, we'd be quite happy to send to you and say, we've
Yeah.
got 200 plot holders that want to grow, whatever.
Yeah, I know, it's something we have looked at. It's, but again, it's looking to see if we can get hold of those and bring those ones into the range. It's not everything you can get into the country these days, unfortunately.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Andrew.
Just enough confidence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We can now conclude the AGM for 2026. I have been assured that Andrew's list will be available on the website as soon as we can get it on. The big problem is, of course, they've probably cleared all the seats from out there. So you just have to remember it, or when you get your catalogues. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for turning up. Please make sure you take everything with you. Thank you.